This is different. This is magnificent, man. And I like this. I enjoyed myself to the fullest, and I can't wait to come back on. I can't wait to see it, see more of the people on here.
And it's also wonderful to hear people talk sanely to each other.
You have something amazing going with the show because you're there and you're educating us.
I mean, yes, pain is inevitable. I mean, there's a reason we have these sensors in our body. I mean, they're warning signs. In other words, something hurts. Obviously, something is amiss.
She told me her story again about her and her dad, but she also said, by the way, my father passed away. She's an only child, and she didn't have any family. And she asked me to walk her down the aisle. That's the part that changed.
It's just that cruel moment of when you realize there is no hope. That tears at me, but it doesn't tear at me anymore because there was hope. I hung on just long enough to come out the other side. And here I am. Look at me, all beautiful and stuff.
This thing has drawn me out of myself and thereby drawn me into myself. But I learned a lot. And from you, Avi, I always learned something from you.
Continue to work as hard as you can, because by working, Avi, you will keep yourself busy and get used to the grief.
More underrated, we have Billy D. Williams, Italian men named Skippy, or Unicycle.
I'm sorry, Italian men named Skippy. Put me away, Avi.
Archie Bunker, the mountain climber. Ralph Cramden, the yoga instructor, or Don Corleone, the computer repair person.
It's clearly an issue with the hard drive.
I'm going to go Don Corleone.
Where I went around, I visited all the adults first in the Stony Brook University Cancer Center, and then I visited the children. And I would say the adults were at least as enthused and joyful to see Santa.
And I got a chance to get to know Joe Weeda. Joe was like a second father to me. He took me under his wing. He introduced me to art. He introduced me to history.
There are those of us who like to venture to the unexplored, to see the beauty in the strange and unknown. Those of us who go out there with a sense of wonder. It's the magic of risking everything for a dream that nobody sees but you.
Beyond this place of wrath and tears looms but the shadow of the shade. Yet the menace of the years finds and shall find me, unafraid. God, it matters not how strait the gate, how punishment charged the scroll. I am the master of my fate. I am the captain of my soul.
I have to remind myself that some birds aren't meant to be caged. Their feathers are just too bright. And when they fly away, the part of you that knows it was a sin to lock them up does rejoice. Let me tell you about a voice. The one that whispers. It tells me what's right and what's not, when to leave and where to go. It's not Shakespeare. It does not speak in memorable lines. My inner voice always gives it to me straight. Tells me who my real friends are. When to say yes, when to say no. Whether the person sitting next to me is the one I'll be spending the rest of my life with.
You already know that dedication, hard work, and perseverance gives positive results.
Let your instincts guide you.
What would you do if you weren't an actor? If you didn't make it as an actor, what would you do? I have no idea. I would act somewhere, because I'll die if I don't.
A blast. I want to dance with somebody.
There we go.
I'll do it.
I do too right now, guys and gals. And you know,
but I was going, Tom, Don, I'm a true fan. Yo, I never watched all of your movies through, Tom, because they scared the crap out of me. Love y'all, man.
Pleasure. Great to meet you. It's great to meet you too, Trent.
Yeah, Avi, you did a great job.
Hi, I'm Rick Barry, a member of the Basketball Hall of Fame and one of the NBA's top 50 players. And I'm really excited to tell you about my new relationship in the broadcasting world with the new network.
It's TKN, and a young man named Avi Klein has poured his blood, sweat, and tears into creating this new network and assembling an amazing group of individuals to co-host shows with him.
Legends from every walk of life who are just bringing their knowledge and their experience and their wisdom, and this is amazing. I feel like this is a cosmic convergence of what is most important to him, and he's such a stand-up guy.
Here, but with a very warm heart for Avi and thanking him for all the work he's put into creating the new network. For me, I have just a teeny part of this in terms of having a program that's based on storytelling, where I get to share some of my stories with you.
I can't even imagine how hard Avi Klein worked. He tells me he gets 4 hours of sleep a day, and I actually believe that, because Avi is so passionate, he works so hard.
There is nothing that was on TV tonight that even remotely rivals what we did on this broadcast.
I am so grateful for our friendship. And you know what? You appreciate things in people that make such a difference. You make each of us feel like we're more than we know how to even thank you. Anyway.
It's very respectful, and he really connects with the artists and his audiences, and I felt like this guy's on to something, and I'm proud to be a part of this with him.
And I really thank your support. I lost my father, and you were the first person to support me in all that, and I thank you so much for that.
Avi, congratulations. I don't know anybody that can talk as much as you. Seriously, I thought I could talk. You are unreal. But you do it with class, understanding, professionalism. You're simply amazing. I told you that when I first met you, and you ran off my autobiography. It basically was a book. It was simply fantastic. And to think that you do that every show.
The greatest wealth is when you can share it with someone. You can share your victories, you can share your failure, you can express your deepest feelings, but the greatest wealth is to be able to say that I have a friend, and I feel an unbelievable level of wealth, and a lot of that is because I have somebody like you.
Last name Ventura, first name Jesse.
I'll tell you this, Avi, you definitely do your homework.
John Amos.
Man, what an introduction. I hope I can live up to that. God bless you.
I hope you're getting paid a lot. That was the greatest intro I think I've ever had.
So I'm highly impressed. So I would give this a very high A.
Well, thank you very much. I can't think of a better way to begin the new year than with you.
Avi, always great to hear your voice, kid, and to hear your intros. You're amazing.
Last name Davidson, first name Tommy.
Nice. Now, I think that's the best intro I've ever had.
Did you have a nice time tonight in the green room?
I had a great time. I can't tell you how refreshing it is that somebody knows what they're doing.
Avi is a poet, but he doesn't know it, but his feet show it. You're unbelievable.
Winning it all, competitive juices, are they all there, Joe?
Man, the competitive juices don't stop.
Are you here to win the whole darn tournament?
I don't play. I just win.
You're chomping at the bit to get in this thing.
Oh yeah, man. I've been telling you, brother. You brought up some names to me, and I was like, I can't wait. I hope they don't see me because it's gonna be on like a steaming pot of neck bones, baby. And I'm not playing.
Mike, I gotta ask you the golden question. Are you here to win the entire thing, my friend?
I'll just say this, Avi. Winner, winner, chicken dinner.
But are you here to win the entire celebrity tournament when it's all said and done?
I saw a very familiar face in Mike Rotundo, better known as IRS, and he said that he was here for the winner chicken dinner, and I want to take away that chicken dinner. So yes, I want to win this whole shebang.
First name Joe Smith. Welcome, my friend.
Oh my God, Avi. Where did you get all of that from? Oh my God.
That is what it's all about, guys and gals. We call it competitive camaraderie. That's because we don't have to be salacious in this place, guys. We have conversation, not controversy. And as you guys know, over 200 without failing, 139 Hall of Famers, Oscar winners, Grammy, Emmy, Tony, all in this place here competing for the pride and the prize. But at the end of the day, the real prize is how we all bond. Strangers leave as friends. And guys and gals and pals, this is truly a sport of the mind. The biggest tournament of all time. Thank you. And now, guys and gals and pals, 3 more legends. And we're going to get to know the person behind the persona, because that is truly what it is all about. Guys and gals and pals, industrial-sized air conditioners at your favorite B&B in Alaska would be rendered obsolete after witnessing that intro because we're all fired up. That much is a fact. You've all experienced luminary after luminary. Enter this virtual arena. Indeed, this tournament is quite stacked. I dubbed this vision of mine edutainment because I place emphasis on entertainment and education, because on this station, we celebrate those that are passionate about their vocation. And this format is anything but the same old, so I thank you for embracing the innovation and expressing your constant elation when taking in the most star-studded tournament of them all. A place where competitors convey their level of admiration, while we marvel at the information, passion, and perspiration, a lot of that, when observing this wide array of talent that make up the population of strong-minded thinkers that are positive, that enlighten us, which is why I subscribe to conversation, because listening and applying is how we get to our destination. We're all so much closer than we are apart, which is why we have a fascination. So guys and gals, sit back and enjoy as I put a cap on this verbal dissertation. Let's sit back and realize what we've witnessed here in this tournament, oh so grand. 139 Hall of Famers and Hollywood Award winners and Grammy nominees and winners own this land, as we discover and rediscover our humanity through open dialogue and expand. So be prepared to give a hand to competitors that are about to work their sweat gland, all the while our attention they command. It's my honor to present these wonderful men and women who don't see themselves as merely a luminary. It's a pleasure telling their life story biographically while condensing it with rhymes and a melody. With 15 grand and a 5-day and 5-night trip to Greece on the line, one will win, but one can't forget about the pride and the prize. So with that, let's all rise and reprise our roles as educational voyeurs that never chastise or agonize, but rather we revel in our beautiful reality without needing a disguise. Here on this network, we're allergic to lies. The bard Mr. Shakespeare once said, "It's not in the stars to hold our destiny, but it's in ourselves." So if you love something, don't hate others that do, because doing is the sweet nectar that's most rewarding. Take a moment to breathe, admire your desire to aspire, because if you don't, life will be but a blur. Of this, I'm sure. Never hate the flower for starting out as a seed, because long-distance running is essential. It's not a stampede, so don't run anyone over on your way to the top. Focus on yourself and never forget to cheerlead. Root for your loved ones and lift people up. This human fortune cookie hopes that we've all agreed that positivity is something that we can concede. Guys and gals and pals, I'm now going to bring in our very first participant, and I cannot wait. Our first participant is a native of Spokane, Washington, and he grew up in Canoga Park, California, and attended Crespi Carmelite High School in Encino, where we'd hear the fans scream and roar. He was a big UCLA Bruins fan, rooting for legends such as Bill Walton and Lou Alcindor. He used to religiously watch the Thursday tape delay games on Friday at midnight, where he'd cheer madly for the great John Wooden's teams, but soon he wouldn't have to take a back seat. His father, Casimir, who graduated from Gonzaga in 52, was 6'4", while his mom was 6 feet. By the time he was approaching his teens in 7th grade, our participant was also 6 feet as he grew and grew. By 8th grade, he was 6'2", and by his senior year in high school, he had topped out at 7 feet. Guys, before he even played for the city of Brew, he was selected as a high school All-American in 1975, where he led the Celts to their finest season. Despite running into Reggie Theos in Inglewood, the team reeled off 17 consecutive victories, and our 7-footer was the primary reason. Crespi finished that season as sterling 25-2. A lot of people assumed that he was going to UCLA because the big man connection there. He decided he wanted to get away from home, and ultimately he would leave and play elsewhere. But where? He took 6 visits to Washington State, Arizona State, USC, Gonzaga, Kansas, and NC State. But all that changed when he visited KU, as it felt natural and great. It felt like the place he needed to be. Call it fate. He played 4 seasons in Lawrence from 75 to 79, but let's talk about 78. He helped the Jayhawks to a 24-5 record and the Big 8 championship, and he was among the team's top 5 scorers in 3 of his 4 seasons, as his future was taking off like a rocket with an efficient piston, and soon he'd be wearing the Deers. When he came out of college, he set a goal, which he would accomplish through blood, sweat, and tears. He wanted to play in the NBA for 10 solid years. He accomplished just that, and during his 23-year coaching and scouting career that followed his playing years, this man saw it all. If you stood toe-to-toe with him, you surely had some gall. He'd captivate you with his hustle like Bob Odenkirk and Better Call Saul. He was one of Milwaukee's most popular players, like an Orange Julius at your local mall. He's humble, smart, kind, as his heart is way bigger than 7 feet tall. So give it up to a friend, colleague, and a great man. Last name Mokeski. First name Paul. Welcome to the celebrity tournament, my good friend.
Wow. I don't know if I can compare to that intro. I need to keep that for my 2 sons and my grandkids that are coming. And there's a couple things I know right now. Number one, I don't know if I'm deep enough mentally to deal with these conversations of the ones you've had before me. And number 2, I need a lot more coffee to keep up with your energy, my friend. I love it.
No, listen, you deserve every bit of it because you inspired a lot of people. You've been around the world. You've coached a lot of great talent, and you've always reminded them to be human beings first. We travel in the same circles. One of my dear friends is Lenny Wilkins, who's also in this tournament over here. A lot of people that talk about Paul Mokeski, the man, and how Paul Mokeski, the man, has been able to relate to the player, not just because he played the game, but because he understands people. And you care about people, right, Paul? That's something that you really have to have if you want to succeed as a coach. You have to care about people.
Yeah, I mean, I battled to last for 12 years in the NBA, and then I in the tough coaching business for over 20 years. And you don't get that far along in your career unless you can relate to and feel for people. And especially in coaching, your job is to help people. I coached in the NBA Development League, where you're helping players reach their goal, not only physically, with player development, but also mentally with the mental part of the game.
Absolutely, Paul. I got to tell you something right off the bat. We have 139, and you're one of them. 139 greats, Hall of Famers, Oscar winners, you name them, here to win this tournament because it stands for something. But at the end of the day, one person's going to win it all. 5-day trip to Greece, 15 grand. Are you here to win the entire tournament, my friend?
Well, my wife of 43 years, Linda, is telling me I must win this tournament. I have to win this tournament. So not only the cash would be nice in our pocket, but that trip to Greece sounds wonderful. So let's go.
Let's do it. My friend, I'll put you backstage in a moment and bring in our next participant.
Oh, okay.
Paul Mokeski, guys and gals, he's getting to know him. He's a great human being. He stands for something, and so does our next participant over here, guys, who does so much for the kids, so much for anybody that actually doesn't have a voice. He gives them a voice. And that's why he has this quote. When a kid has a dream, and he can really visualize that dream and put actions behind that dream and start taking steps and get closer to that dream, that's all the ammunition and motivation that one needs. Our next participant was born in January of 1965 in Baltimore, Maryland, the youngest child of Richard and Elaine. He grew up with his brothers Richard and Anthony and his sister Sharon, but times weren't as easy as I continue to explain. Why he overcame so much before he became a player that on the court was nearly impossible to contain. He grew up in the Lafayette public housing projects on the city's east side and dealt with many adversities even as a tot. At age 5, he was hospitalized after the store owner of Old Manchester fired off a stray buckshot. That was a traumatic experience to go through at that age. And while many would rage, he would become such an inspiration to kids with advice that was rather sage. His mom had to go back to night school to take care of 4 kids, and he dreamed of one day paying her back. His dream would be fulfilled because ambition, pride, and work ethic were qualities that he didn't lack. When he used to go onto the basketball court and hear all the negative words like, "You're too small, why are you pursuing this game?" it simply made him stronger. He met Mr. Leon Hardwick, who gave him the information on how to navigate the court so he would strive to thrive no longer, guys and gals. During his junior and senior years of high school, he led Dunbar to become the greatest high school basketball team of all time, as they did one thing: win. They were as consistent as your favorite veggie. Would you expect when, in this man's case, he shared the court with NBA great David Wingate and 2 great NBA greats, guys and gals? How about Reggie Lewis? How about Reggie Williams? They were the best high school team in the U.S., winning an amazing 59 games in a row as their opponents couldn't keep up and gave in to fatigue. This man was voted the most valuable player on his team in the city's public school league. After being recruited by several top colleges, he chose and enrolled in Wake Forest University in '83. He came into his own as a point guard as he ranked top 10 in assists nationally. He played on the U.S. national team that won the World Championship in Spain in 1987. His senior year at Wake Forest was equally distinguished, as his legion of fans felt like they were in basketball heaven. The school retired his jersey number after he graduated with his BA degree with an Atlantic Coast Conference record of 579 assists. He's in the pantheon of greatest distributors on the court, as he shows up on most people's lists. He was selected 12th in the first round of the NBA draft by the Washington Bullets and gained plenty of attention with his unique ball handling skills. As a Charlotte Hornet, he provided many a thrills, and if you bet against his success, you'd probably lose some dollar bills. He had an insane 44-inch vertical, and there was no better player to come out of the draft to run a basketball team. Despite being the smallest NBA player ever, he gave others hope, as their reality was preceded by a beautiful dream. It's time for me to make the grade by listing many of his accolades. He led the ACC in assists and steals in 84-85 and 85-86. He set a record for assists in an ACC game with 17 against North Carolina in 86. He earned first-team All-ACC honors as a senior in 87. He was inducted into the Wake Forest Sports Hall of Fame in 01. He holds several Hornets records, including career steals and assists. He runs the Family Foundation, which provides underserved communities with access to education and job training. He played for the USA national team in the 86 FIBA World Championships and won the gold medal. Under head coach Lute Olson, he played in all 10 of the games and led them in assists and steals. As one of the most popular players of all time, this man has a plethora of film and TV credits to his name. But despite the fame, the acclaim, and his legendary game, his heart is still the same. So give it up to a man that always ushers in the joy and endless glee, as I welcome a humble, kind, intelligent human being. Last name Bogues, first name Muggsy. Welcome to the tournament, my friend.
Thank you, Bogues. I'm glad you did not display how much I paid you for the intro, because you did an amazing job, and the fans would not have, took it so passionate if they would know how much I paid for that.
Ah, man, again, like Mr. Mokeski, how can I stop giving you and Paul and our next guest, we're going to find out who that is, how can I stop giving you guys your roses when you do so much when the cameras aren't on? Making your life all about the kids, Muggsy. You've done that when you were a player. It wasn't you did that just when you did that when you were a player. There were kids that would knock on the door and feel like they could relate to you, and you always had time for those that didn't have a voice.
Absolutely. And as my journey, as I grew, passionately and understanding how to block the noise out, had to just have that information come in one ear and out the other. It's just such a treat to see, kids try to reach their full potential. And that's one of the messages that I always will share with a kid, because folks always will tell you who you could be, who you should be, but we already know who we want to be. So having that understanding within and having that confidence within, it allow you to kind of, navigate through all that noise and all the negative, all the naysayers, and you can reach your full potential regardless of what industry you decide to choose.
Amen to that. And no one's had more adversities than you have, and yet you still remain so positive. And really, the best way to have people understand the journey you went through, you didn't ask me to do this, but I want to do this. Guys and gals and pals, this is the book right here. Muggsy, My Life from a Kid in the Projects to the Godfather of Small Ball. As you can see, forward by Stephen Curry and Alonzo Mourning, Muggsy's former teammate right there. This is a book. If you're not a basketball fan, you're going to enjoy this book. If you're a basketball fan, you're going to enjoy this book. Either way, you're going to enjoy this book because it's a life story about somebody. And in today's world, we need to know that the underdogs are us. We're all underdogs. We're all in this thing together. Your inspirational story spoke to me when I first read it.
Oh, thank you so much for that. And as you mentioned that book, it's a lot that's in that a lot of details in that book. That's after the fact that my basketball career was over. So we talk about so many things, the ups and the downs. Me and my wife rekindling our relationship again after we divorced for 10 years. So there's a lot of positive things, and it happened. I put it out there during the COVID year when a lot of things were down, when a lot of folks was, not feeling their best. So I wanted to put a positive message out there, and hopefully someone can really gravitate toward that as well as the things they go through in their lives.
My friend, this is definitely a great production here that we have of an assembly of talent that have reached the mountaintop. And I bring all these celebrities in because as someone who's written in the studio system, I would do something like this if we could show the world the person behind the persona. You guys don't just use your fame and acclaim for something shallow and superficial. You guys actually use your platform to help people. But that being said, it is a tournament. You're a winner. Paul Mokeski's a winner. Our next participant's a winner. You know where I'm going with this. One person's going to win it all. 15 grand, 5-day trip to Greece. Would you like to win it all, my friend?
Well, of course I would like to win. My wife would like me to win more than anything.
Okay, I see that. Guys and gals and pals, we'll get Muggsy right back. Might be a bit of a technical snafu over here. Muggsy, if you can hear me, I'm going to try to see right now. Oh, there we go. We got you back. We got you back.
Awesome. Okay, good. We had, as you were just talking about winning, I would love to win. Absolutely love to win. My wife would love me to win as well because that's one of her favorite places to visit. And I'm ready to go. So let's go, guys.
Let's do it. I love it. Muggsy Bogues, I'm going to put you backstage for one moment, my friend.
Okay.
The great Muggsy Bogues, the great Paul Mokeski, and our final participant right now. You would think of the word great. Where do you start? Basketball? Off the court? Let's bring him in right now, and then all three of these luminaries will be on screen together. Right now, guys and gals and pals, I want to bring in our third participant, who, again, had an award created, I think, just for him. That's what I think. Our third participant is a man that aspires to inspire, and he's done just that. He was the second to youngest of 7 children and was raised by his mother, Bernice Perkins. She did it all for her children, yet maintained discipline years before he won awards, honors, and picked up the wins. He was assigned specific household chores he had to compete, and he had to do them right. When his mother returned home from her job as a maid at a Howard Johnson's motel, be it light or night, her commitment to excellence helped her son become a star among stars that would shine ever so bright. When he wasn't working at home, he was often fighting near it, developing his defensive skills early. You had to stand your ground, whether the kids were tall or burly. You never wanted to show that you could be dominant anyway, like a silly stooge named Curly. I always say that the sweat is the sweet, as good old-fashioned labor can never lead to defeat. Let me illustrate to all of you how things stood. Our luminary's membership in a Boy Scout troop and hard work in his family's garden was oh so good, and it helped him dodge the crime and drugs of his rough neighborhood. He began playing on basketball teams as a student, guys and gals, in the 7th and 8th grades. And soon as defense would suffocate you, you couldn't see daylight even with shades. You had nowhere to go, like the villains running for cover during Indiana Jones and his many crusades. Once he enrolled in Hall High in Little Rock, he made the varsity team as the scouts went, hey, let's recruit a man that wouldn't let his opponents see the light of day, as he was named to several high school All-American teams as a senior while putting up a 3.8 GPA. As he prepared to graduate from high school, there was zero doubt that he was a crown jewel, and he was heavily recruited by LSU, Arkansas State University, and the U of A Razorbacks. The scouts couldn't relax, as they all were chomping at the bit to sign a talent as versatile as the Greek hero Ajax. Although it was then known primarily as a football school, he eventually chose U of A because it had a new coach, Eddie Sutton, who was ushering in a new, exciting brand of basketball. He ended up a team member of Ron Brewer and Marvin Delph, and boy, oh boy, would these three stand tall. In '77, he and his teammates won the Southwest Conference Championship, and the next year, the team made it to the NCAA Final Four. Before his senior year, the school was glad that he stayed. But right around this time, he married his girlfriend, Deborah, whom he had known since 3rd grade. After he graduated in '79 with a Bachelor of Science degree in physical education, he entered the NBA draft, and he was the 5th player chosen overall by the Bucks in the 1st round. It's worth noting that Jerry West made quite the sound, as he wanted this man over Magic, but because he felt he was more of a complete player, pound for pound. It's now time for me to bring up this man's many accolades, which never go out of fashion, like members only or high tape fades. He was the SWC Player of the Year in '79. He was the consensus first-team All-American in '79. He won the league's first two Defensive Player of the Year awards in '83 and '84 back-to-back. In his 10 seasons with the Bucks, he was an All-Star 5 times and a 5-time NBA All-NBA player. He's a 4-time All-NBA defensive first-team player. He was the head coach at the University of Arkansas Little Rock for the '99-2000 season. He was an assistant coach of the Milwaukee Bucks and also commentated their games. He's authored books. He launched the Career Professional Development Center in Little Rock in 2017. The center is a nonprofit organization that helps develop adults and young people. The Milwaukee Bucks retired his number 4 jersey in 1990, and they rededicated in 2008. He was inducted into Arkansas Sports Hall of Fame in 93, the Wisconsin Athletic Hall of Fame in 98, and the Naismith Memorial Basketball Hall of Fame in 2019. He guided the Bucks to 3 conference final appearances in the East Heavy 80s. The man has done it all, yet he remains grounded and provides many people glee. When he guarded you, you might want to flee, whether you were a 6'2" guard or a 7'5" tree. These lyrics provided harmony, as if they were sung by Jermaine Dupri. So give it up, like a wailing banshee, for a man that is class personified, intelligent, and humble. Last name Moncrief, first name Sidney. Welcome to the tournament, my friend.
Thank you very much. I have taped your introduction, and I might send you residual when I play it when I do a workshop or a keynote. That was outstanding.
No, you deserve it, man. Listen, Sidney, I'm going to tell you something right now. I'm going to play between topics 1 and 2 a very quick video. I call it the rest in peace video because a lot of the celebrities we've had here in this tournament have passed on. And one of the people that's going to be in that video is my dad, who passed away 2 months ago. My dad introduced me to basketball. Before I got into screenwriting for one of the biggest studios in the world, being a basketball savant and a U.S. history teacher, those were the 2 things I cared about. I couldn't play the game. I don't pretend to. But studying the game all the way back, to the 20s, I just talked about a project I'm pitching. I'm bringing this up because you were one of the first people my dad told me about. He said, you got to watch Sidney Moncrief and those Buck teams. And he taped these games. My dad was a hard worker. He taped these games that he couldn't watch. And I remember thinking to myself, how could a two-way player like this never get tired? How could a guy like this guard the greatest and then also offensively take his team to new heights the way that you did with Milwaukee? My friend, you were one of the first people that really made me watch and enjoy basketball, so I thank you for that.
Well, and I'm sorry to hear about your loss. I know that was very difficult for you. Basketball is just fun. You play the game because you love the game. And when I played, if you didn't play defense, that means you probably wouldn't be up next to play again because there were always people waiting to play. And you had to be competitive. You had to be relentless. You had to be tough, and you had to play offense and defense. And that's why I enjoy offense more than defense, contrary to what people think. But it's always nice to be able to play both.
Well, you know what? I do like the fact that, your mom, it wasn't just giving you chores. They had to be done right. And that's something you applied later on to your career.
Oh, my mom would just beat us down. I'm telling you, every once in a while we'll start playing and we forget to empty the trash or do something, and she would come home and all of a sudden we say, oh my goodness, we didn't do it, too late. She was on us all the time. And it really helped me to develop an appreciation for doing what people ask you to do. And I tell young people and adults that all the time. Life becomes simpler when you follow instructions. And she gave me the blueprint for following instructions. And so did all my coaches.
Bless the heart and soul of Bernice Perkins for raising such a great human being who now gives it back the way that he does for so many years. And guys and gals, what am I going to give you right now? I'm going to give you Paul Mokeski. I'm going to give you Muggsy Bogues. They're going to be on screen right here. We're all on screen together right now. Here we go. This is round number 1. Guys, this is topic number 1. We got 2 topics. And what we'll do right now is start off with Mr. Paul Mokeski. Again, the same topics for Paul, Sidney, and Muggsy. I'll set them up. Paul, I want to talk about this topic because it's very important for me. Like I said, I always try to make sure. I got to say this real quickly because I've been known to have a mouth on me, but in a positive way, not in a negative way. The studio didn't believe in this. They said, what are some jocks going to do talking about something outside of their sport? I said, really? I said, are you out of your mind? What am I, just a writer? Am I not allowed to talk about sports because I'm a writer? Is an athlete not allowed to talk about other elements of life? Now, all of a sudden, the studio and these suits and ties I never heard of are calling me up saying, hey, Avi, how you doing today? Isn't that funny how it works? Now that we got the 2.7 million viewers out there, they didn't believe in this. They believe in it now. And that's what these topics are about because these gentlemen are intelligent. These gentlemen have seen the world. And these gentlemen work relentlessly to give people like us a voice. And that's what they're going to do right now. They're going to show who they are as human beings. And we're going to start off with topic number 1, Mr. Paul Mokeski. It's about awe-inspiring moments. A few years back, I asked what living a good life meant to someone that meant a lot to me, my ex. And she answered me and she said it was about acknowledging and exalting the little moments. We all steamroll over little moments in life. I've experienced small moments of grace, and they add up to bigger moments. But what about us? What about you? If you can select the most awe-inspiring moment, Paul, of the 20th century and 21st century, which moments from both centuries would you select as the most awe-inspiring moment and why? Whenever you're ready, good sir, the floor is yours.
Well, you maybe do some research and get back to school. And I felt like I was doing a book report, but there's so many crazy things that went on in the 20th century, from World War I to World War II to the atom bomb. All this stuff was going on while we were growing up. We were right in the middle of it. At least I was right in the middle of it. And the thing that I picked that really stood out in my life and really made an impact on me in many, many ways was space travel and the moon landing. I was 12 years old. My parents woke me up to watch live as Neil Armstrong took his first step on the moon and uttered the words, one small step for man, one big leap for mankind. And, I think in many ways as a young kid, growing up and playing outside and running around and riding my bike, this was amazing to me. It was amazing in a couple ways. At that time in the world, there was two superpowers. It was Russia and it was us. And we were battling in the Cold War. And then Kennedy made it a space race. And there was great pride in America, going to school and talking to people and hearing your parents talk. Hey, we got to win the space race. We got to get to the moon first. And we actually did that. And that gave pride to everybody in the United States at that time when it was really, really needed in this country. And it was three things that really stood out to me. Number one, the technology. At 12 years old, I didn't really understand it, but I do now. The technology to be able to launch a rocket into space specifically to get to the moon, then be able to land it on the moon, and then be able to take off, come back, and have a splashdown in an ocean that's small as a pea, with computers and the communication, and being able to watch this all happen live on TV was just amazing. And that was the technology part. And then the last thing really that really stood out to me was the imagination part. Watching as a 12-year-old kid, and you guys are about my same age, before that, really when you went out on Halloween and got a costume, it was I was a cowboy or I was a policeman or I was a fireman, but now you add on to I'm an astronaut now. I can go into space. I can land on the moon. That imagination and those limitations were taken off of us at that time in that generation. And then, I'm sorry, watching too much TV, but I mean, you look, the Jetsons, watching the Jetsons as a kid, they had a robot. They predicted Zoom calls, what we're on right now. We didn't have those back then. George Jetson talking to Mr. Spacely on TV. What, are you crazy? That's never going to happen.
Hey, they promised us flying cars.
Yeah, flying cars hasn't happened yet, but that's scary thought, And then Lost in Space was another show I used to. That was a family going in space to explore that gets stranded on a planet, but a whole family is up in space. And then, of course, Star Trek, who I'm a big fan of, watching, exploring great galaxies and finding life where we don't know if it is. Is there somebody else out there? But here's another thing that really hit me about Star Trek. Star Trek, Lost in Space was a family in space. Star Trek was diversity in space. We saw women, we saw black people, we saw, Asians, we saw everybody on this ship going to explore together into space. We also saw Klingons and green people, but, it was diversity in space. And, the mind was just opened up for what I can, the imagination. Think outside the box. Sidney and I played for one of the greatest coaches ever who thought outside the box. Don Nelson. Nelly thought outside the box. in sports, this was thinking outside the box for life and what can be. And to me, that was so impactful. I can remember it as a little kid, and now when I went back in my research a little bit, I'm like, wow, that kind of lit us spark under me about, hey, anything can happen, even a guy with a skinny guy with a broke afro can play in the NBA for 12 years. Hey, so that's what I thought back on the 20th century of really awe-inspiring. It was the technology, but it was more the imagination of let's think outside the box and see what we can do as a community. And that really was something that really stood out to me.
No, I appreciate that. And that, again, you bring up the space race. Every decade, for 3 decades straight in this country, there was some kind of race. Space race in the 50s, the arms race in the 60s, and then the political race. How there was essentially no leadership. We had 5 commanders in chief in a row that couldn't figure out something that probably, I think right now, we can let the cat out of the bag. The Vietnam War was something that shouldn't have happened. And when people bring it up, they bring up the fact that those awe-inspiring moments all occurred because of the start of the space race. That's really what set the tone. France came into Vietnam before we did. And the reason why they were in Vietnam was because they felt like they couldn't keep up with our space program or the Soviet space program. And economically speaking, they saw assets in Vietnam. So how you interweave all of these happenings that take place under our globe is interesting. But one thing that really I think is more I guess, common than anybody would give credit to is what you just said. When Armstrong walked on the moon, when that happened in 1969, those watershed moments allowed us to realize that we're so close. But I just wish, not to sound like a negative Nancy, I just wish it didn't take those moments or dates like September 12th, 2001 to remind us how close we really are. Do you guys feel like the best of us as human beings comes out during probably the worst events that could possibly happen? Is that what happens to us as human beings? Do we only rise above once we deal with the worst kind of adversity? What do you think?
Absolutely. Compassion and empathy become stronger when we see each other in crises. At that point, we have that commonality because everyone has struggled. Everyone has encountered something that's been difficult, and it comes out. I have a quick story. I grew up in Little Rock, Arkansas, and of course it was segregated at that time. And we lived across the street, catty corner from a white family. So we were on one corner, they were on the other corner, the Browns. And we would sit on the corner to just yell the most, I can't even say the words. We would call each other racial names. And I was 6 years old. And they were 6 years old. And we'll go back and forth and back and forth. In all those years, we never played with one another. We never said a kind word to one another. It was the most amazing thing. One day, my brother George, we're out in the backyard, we're playing in fire. And my mom said, if you guys get burned or get caught on fire or whatever, she said, I'm going to beat you like you're not on fire. So George was playing with the stick. The stick caught on fire. His shirt caught on fire. He starts running, and you know what happens when you run, you're on fire. The fire just kept going, so it's back. The neighbor, the white neighbor from across the street, who's never said a kind word to us ever, a gentleman, older gentleman, he comes out of the house, he runs, he catches my brother, he rolls him around, so the fire is out now. That compassion and love and concern for someone that he disliked, that dislike disappeared because it was a time of crisis.
Wow.
And he was able to put my brother, the fire out. My mom grabbed my brother's hand, led him to the front porch, took a switch, and beat the out.
Yeah.
Before she took him to the hospital. So to your point, I witnessed firsthand what empathy and compassion means and why as Americans we're at our best when we're at our worst with crises.
You're totally right. And that's a hell of a story. I mean, and that analogy is so picture perfect because I wish there were preventive measures we could take as human beings to prevent the hate by starting love, even when we don't feel like it. Like when I'm not feeling well, like even today during this particular broadcast, I'm going to try to do my best to be my best because I don't feel well. And if I feel like I'm in a bad mood and I open up the door, I know that there are neighbors out there that shouldn't feel my wrath. I'm going to try to feel as if I'm in the best mood possible just to make their day. Because my gloom and doom shouldn't affect them. And man, that story sticks with me so much because Muggsy, Paul, Sidney, you guys have done a lot when people, whether they're in hospitals, whether there's kids that are trying to learn the fundamentals of the game. And you guys use your life stories to explain something to people today in 2025 that could still listen if they chose to. Even with all this media out there, all this hoopla, you guys still can go to the people the way that you do.
Bring this up because it's right in my mind right now, and I'm not smoking or anything, but Sidney Moncrief is one of the most amazing people I've ever met. He's the most amazing teammate, most amazing person. I'm going to tell you a story. Sidney told about a guy in his neighborhood. I'm going to tell you a story. So when I was cut by the Cleveland Cavaliers, I was picked up by the Milwaukee Bucks on a 10-day contract. I signed another 10-day contract, and then I signed for the year and another year, and then I played there for 6 years with Sidney as a teammate. But I remember my first week or so in Milwaukee, I was staying in a hotel across the street, didn't know anybody, just getting to know my teammates, and was kind of, I would feel sorry for myself a little bit because someone cut me. Shoot, come on, man. But, I remember Sidney coming to me after practice, says, "Hey, get dressed and you're going to come with me this afternoon." And I'm like, "Where are we going?" He said, "Just get dressed and you can come with me." So I'm like, "Okay, we're going to go to lunch or we're going to go to the club, somewhere and whatever." But where we went, where Sidney Moncrief took me, was Children's Hospital in Milwaukee. Wow. And he took me to Children's Hospital. We went on the floors. The nurses knew him. The doctors knew him. And we're just going to go on the floor. We're going to talk to the kids with cancer. And more importantly, really, not more importantly, but their parents who were struggling, of children that were dying or in bad treatment and in pain. And we were there to try to talk to them and just give them a little, freedom just to forget about it for a little bit. And what that turned into for me was I went there every year with Sidney and Junior Bridgman. And the next 2 years, I started a tournament in Milwaukee, a celebrity tournament for the Children's Hospital. And we raised $800,000 for Children's Hospital, and went there, and we took in the tournament, we took Moses Malone, God rest his soul, and all these guys to visit the hospital. It's funny though, we got up to play golf in the limo, and then before we took them to the hotel, we stopped by the hospital, and they're, "Oh, Mo, we didn't want to go here." But then afterwards, everybody to a T came up to me and said, "Mo, thanks for bringing me here." Most of them were in tears. This really means a lot, but I just wanted to point that out about.
Wouldn't you agree, though, Paul, that all of a sudden your problems dissipated? Now it's about, wait, I'm not getting enough playing time, whatever it is. I'm seeing these kids over here are fighting for their lives. And they got a smile on their face. And Muggsy knows that, and Sidney knows that, and Paul knows that. Like, my question to all of you, just really kind of quickly, is that doesn't only make your problems go away, that makes you put things in proper perspective, doesn't it?
For sure.
When you see the smile of a child and you say to yourself, man, I can affect someone the way that I do. And it's so cool that you guys haven't lost that. Like, you're passing it on. And, Paul, you bring this up. I'll bring this up right now before I kick it over to Mr. Sidney Moncrief, guys and gals and pals. You talked about your playing days. You actually played with Moses Malone in Houston. Then you go to, so of course you mentioned Cleveland, but when you were in Milwaukee, there was a time where the veterans were there, like Mr. Sidney Moncrief and Bob Lanier, the veterans. But then they made a shift, and you got Jack Sikma, you got Paul Pressey, and some of the younger players. You play about 25 minutes a game around that time, significant minutes, and you become a great backup guy. Do you feel as if that Milwaukee team, and Sidney was there, of course, as the star of the team, that Milwaukee team was a hiccup away if it wasn't for the Philadelphia 76ers, the Boston Celtics, yes, and a player I want to bring up specifically now that needs to get love on this show because nobody brings him up. If it's quality over quantity, can we please scream Andrew Toney's name?
Andrew Toney, please! I'm getting chills from trying to guard him.
Don't give Sidney a flashback. You're just.
I mean, Sidney, how good was Andrew Toney?
Well, I always put Andrew Toney as the second most difficult player I've ever guarded, and very close to the top player I ever guarded. Obviously, it's Michael Jordan, but Andrew Toney was just a sensational basketball player. Not only offensively, he was smart, and he played defense. When you consider the number of ways he could score, he could post you up. He could just catch, hold the ball, and shoot a three-pointer. You can throw him the ball. He could catch it at the same time and shoot a three-pointer. He could drive to his left. He could drive to his right. He could do 2 dribbles left, shoot, 2 dribbles right, shoot. It's not anything he could not do. So when you're trying to guard him, you're just praying that you have help. Mo, somebody help me, because I cannot guard this guy. But he is definitely a player that people just don't understand how good he was.
Now, we're not going to compare because, that's not the right thing to do, but would you say that would be on the same level? Okay, guarding an Andrew Toney in a 6-game series, was that as difficult as guarding Sugar, Michael Ray Richardson in '84 in that second-round series you guys had against the Nets? I mean, if you weren't on a man-to-man, if there were a lot of switches and Paul Pressey, but was it the same kind of challenge?
Well, because Sugar had the ball all the time. So you have to always be on guard when you're guarding a Magic or Sugar, because they have the ball, they control the offense. At any point, they can just score. Philadelphia, since they had so many great offensive players, you kind of knew when the ball was coming to Andrew Toney. It was a different challenge because you knew once he caught the ball, you couldn't score. I mean, you couldn't keep him from scoring. But it was a different type of challenge. But as far as difficulty, probably pretty similar.
Right, got it. Yeah.
Shoot, Sid's telling me to help him on Andrew Toney. Hell, I'm trying to hold out Moses Malone over here.
and then here comes Doc, and then here comes Bobby. I remember. It keeps going.
I remember talking to Moses before he passed. He was doing the Rick Mahorn's golf tournament when Moses passed. So soft-spoken, but I remember him telling me that sometimes he would miss on purpose just to grab his own offensive rebound, not for stats to pad stats. He just said for positioning, just to position. And I'm thinking to myself, you're 6'9", and you're going up against the Artis Gilmores, the 7'2" guys, the 7, and he's missing this on purpose. He had so much confidence in his offensive rebounding skills that he did it just to make himself give himself a higher percentage shot. That's insane when you think about that.
Hey, don't let him do. He was padding his stats.
He was padding his stats. However,
all right, okay.
However, it points to how smart he was, because anyone looking back, the second jump that a defender has in basketball is never as good as their first. So he knew that, so he could throw the ball up. Okay, they had their first jump. Now I get the ball. Now it's my second jump. They're not going to be as aggressive nor effective. And it worked because he was the best I've ever seen as an offensive rebounder.
I need to tell this Moses story. So I was in Houston. I was a rookie playing behind him. He was MVP of the league. I hardly played at all, but I got to learn more in practice guarding Moses than anytime I played in the game. But I remember guarding him one time, and I was behind him. I had my arm bar and had my arm up, and I was guarding him. I had him. He had the ball, and he threw it over his right shoulder, spun around me, got the layup, and laid it in while I was standing there. I mean, who does that? Talk about thinking outside the box. He threw it over his right shoulder, spun around, and got it and laid it in. I'm like, who does that?
And poured himself coffee.
Yeah, exactly. Moses Malone does that.
But you know what's crazy? How about this? He actually was almost right when he predicted. He said, of course it was trash talk, but he said, all I need is 4 guys from St. Petersburg, Virginia, to take on those Celtics in '81. And then they took them to 6 games. That '81 Rockets team took the Celtics to 6 games and almost beat them. And guys, speaking of a team and what we do here is we have fun between topics every now and again. And I want to bring up a team. I want to talk about teams that are unheralded. Thankfully, ESPN got it right when they talked about Dunbar, guys and gals. When they talked about Dunbar. I brought up David Wingate, defensive specialist. Reggie Williams. Reggie Lewis, God rest his soul, who was there on the court, Muggsy, when you were playing in Game 1 against Boston in '93. And I remember it was almost like that. He didn't have the ball, but he was moving without the ball, and he kind of just almost like fainted for like a second. And then he came out of the game. Nobody knew what had happened at that point. And what a team you guys had, because before I get into Reggie Lewis, I want to bring in the unsung heroes of that team. People forget that Tim Dawson, Keith James, Mike Brown, these guys went on to star for the University of Miami, UNLV, and I believe Syracuse as well. They were also your teammates at Dunbar. This was a loaded team, Muggsy.
Yeah, we was fortunate enough to have 11 guys from that team get Division I scholarships. I mean, it was unheard of. It's not today's game where you go recruit a lot of players from different cities and you bring them all under one roof. We all grew up, in a 7-mile radius, actually, pretty much. And that's how we kind of formed that team. But it was a special time back then, knowing that everybody had that type of passion, that type of dream and vision, to want to better their lives. So we was fortunate that we had a coach who understood how to control all those egos in one building, where we made sure that we checked those egos at the door. So Coach Wade, you got to give him a lot of credit for that, because with his, leadership, his understanding of who we were in terms of where we came from, because many of us didn't have fathers in our household. And he served that. So having that understanding, him being that leader of us, it really, allowed us to reach our full potential.
Was it Dwayne Woods who dubbed you Muggsy?
Yeah, Dwayne Wood, he was a young man that in my neighborhood who happened to be small stature. And for me, it was kind of hard to look in the NBA, a guy who I can kind of emulate or relate. The first guy I looked at was Tiny Archibald. When I looked at Tiny, he was 6'1", and I felt like he wasn't too tiny. And then I came across Calvin Murphy, Charlie Chris, and all those guys. And it kind of gave me a little, understand that maybe this thing is really doable. But none of them played the way I played. But besides the guy, Dwayne Wood, in my neighborhood, so he kind of gave me that image on both sides of the ball in terms of how to be, impactful on the court.
I want people to go back and watch Muggsy's tapes, and even offensively, I wouldn't want to guard you when you were also posting up. I think people need to understand the strength and control you had as a player to really appreciate your game. And even like when you guys were tested, you answered the call. Even some of your teammates were like thinking to themselves, wait a minute, we got a big game in '82 against the Camden High Panthers. They were the #1 ranked team in the nation. They lost one game at home at that point. And then when you were announced in the starting lineup, the whole Camden High gym laughed and jeered. They thought, oh, whatever. And then Camden star Billy Thompson, he was laughing along too. Billy Thompson played for the Heat, Lakers. Mm-hmm. He took it upon himself to win this game. You led Dunbar to a dominating victory, 84-59. And in a stunning turnaround, like something you see in a Rocky movie, the same crowd that didn't believe in a Muggsy Bogues hours before the show, just like the USSR didn't believe in Rocky, and we're chanting Rocky instead of Drago in Rocky 4, they were chanting Muggsy, Muggsy, Muggsy. That had to do something to you, man.
Well, it felt good, especially after the fact. When you're in the moment and you trying to accomplish a goal, the only thing you better focus on is the task at hand. And of course, you alluded to that the crowd, they wasn't used to a guy my size out there playing against their star player. So, there was inquisitive minds always, out there concerned about that thing. But for me, I understood my skill set. I understood what our task was, and I knew it all starts from the point guard position. He's the one that get everybody, set up and get them all settled. And if he can have difficulty getting that ball across half court and getting the guys set up, and I know it would be an easy day for us. And that was my, that was my strength. Putting pressure on my opponent, making them earn his, time getting that ball across half court in terms of getting the offensive started. So I always had a good knack of understanding of the game.
I'll tell you what, I don't care about stature, but I know for a fact that there's not one guard in the NBA that wanted to bring the ball down the floor with Muggsy guarding him. I remember listening to Sid and Luke and Pressy going, no, you bring the ball down. No, you bring the ball down. He was a beast.
You could not post him. Part of my game was posting. I was a 6'4" leaper, right. And I would post guys up and make my move, jump hooks. I had all the inside post moves, but Muggsy or Spud, anyone that was small and strong, I just couldn't do it. You just had to.
Would you concur, Sidney, about Muggsy's strength? That's another quality that people need to bring. How strong?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. And then they're right at your ball all the time. It's like get off my ball, man. But Mo, we talked about teams, right? And teams are made up of not just superstars, right? It's the other players that allow you to operate like you operate. Sure. And I remember Paul always. I don't think you ever took a play or a shot that was not your shot. I don't think I ever saw you try to do something that you could not do. And that was, but it's great because I hate to say nowadays players take shots or make plays that they not really shouldn't be trying to make. And it takes away from a possession that I could have had a shot, Mo.
Like when I coach, I told players all the time, and people say this all the time. When a team's struggling, players, I've had meetings with them. Why are we struggling? Players don't know their roles, coach. They just don't know the roles. That's a lie. Every player knows their role. They just don't accept it. They don't accept their role. I accepted my role. I wanted to play in the league. I learned really early. When I was practicing against Moses Malone, I also had this guy that Muggsy knows and loves, Calvin Murphy, on my team. Calvin came after the first couple practices. Calvin came to me and he said, "Hey, he called me Tonka because I played like a truck." He said, "Hey, Tonka, you want to make this team?" I said, "Yes, sir." He said, "Then just set picks for me. Get me open." So all I did is I found Murph and set a pick. I found Murph and set a pick. And I made that team. I figured it out.
Well, you know what? Now there's more motivation because if Paul Mokeski moves on to the next round, he might face the Calvin Murphy, who's in this tournament also. There you go, guys and gals. I love that. We're going to start. We'll continue on with topic number one. I do want to bring this up, though, again, guys and gals. Later on, we might even explore how the Milwaukee Bucks played the USSR. That's an incredible story. We'll bring up how Muggsy Bogues brought up Nate Tiny Archibald. Did you fans out there who are hoop heads who watch our show, 2.7 million, did you guys know that Nate Archibald had a season in Milwaukee as well? Did you guys know that Dave Cowens had half a season in Milwaukee in 83 as well? That Bucks team was loaded, and we'll talk about that Hornets team, the guys and gals and pals. I guess in my opinion, if it counts for something, that Charlotte Hornet team had, and you would talk about the Arco Center, you talk about Utah, those fans in the early 90s, Muggsy, in Charlotte, as early as 88, when you guys first debuted that team, they didn't care whether or not you guys were down by 20, down by 30. They were there to lift you up. It was something to see.
Yeah, it was an exciting time. You understand that North Carolina at the time was known as a collegiate state.
Yeah.
And having the opportunity to bring a professional team and having, in 1988, having that professional sport in your state, that was everything for them. And of course, it was an expansion team. A lot of us came from different programs. And, I was really upset at the beginning because,
Washington.
Because Washington.
Yeah, it was near home. Guys, there we go.
Yeah, that was the mean of me being being part of the franchise for a long period of time. But the NBA showed his ugly head at the end of the season. It was kind of a mixture with me because I was with a bunch of guys who was at the tail end of their career. I had Moses Malone, Bernard King, Charles Jones, and those guys. Jeff Malone, Gerald Walker. So they was on the tail end of their career. But they told me that they was going to bring in guys who like to get up and down the floor and that sort of thing. But they decided to go in a different direction. I'm thankful that I was able to go to Charlotte, because that's where I really able to blossom, with the likes of the Larry Johnson, the Alonzo Mourning, the Del Currys, and so forth. And as you mentioned, the state was excited, having this professional team there and being able to, make the playoff within our 5th year of existence really set the tone for the study. But as you alluded to, they did not care about at the beginning what record we was going to have because our very first game that we played the Cleveland Cavaliers. All the fans came in tuxedos, the ladies came in dressed up in gowns. At the end of the game, we lost by 40 points. But the entire audience stood up and gave us a standing ovation. That's when we knew that, we was in a special place, that we had the support that we needed moving forward. So, that's something that I always remember about the Charlotte Hornets back in that early days.
Beautiful story.
And I remember that team when you guys were good, that arena was turned up.
Yes.
it was turned. And I love playing there because crowds didn't intimidate me. You just kind of want that energy. You want that adversarial relationship with that crowd. And Charlotte was probably one of the top 5 most difficult places to play, I would say, during that stretch.
Wow. Former teammate of Muggsy's who passed away recently is Robert Reed, who got that sort of second lease on life as a Charlotte Hornet, playing so well. And gosh, this was a guy who like brought Houston to prominence twice in that 81 team with Moses and the 86 team with the Twin Towers. And he told me how he wanted to stay in Charlotte forever. It was the tail end of his career. He would always talk to Kelly Tripucka, who was the original leading scorer for that team. And they would always say, man, we never thought that we could play for a team like this that had such a community that was going to back us up even if we were going to go on these long losing streaks. And I'm glad that you guys talked about what you did and how you did, because right now what I'm going to talk about is other awe-inspiring moments, because you guys just gave me some and our audience some. Sidney's going to give us some from the 20th century and 21st century, if he can. If you can select, Sidney, the most awe-inspiring moment in the 20th century and the most awe-inspiring moment in the 21st century, which moments would you select and why? The floor is yours, good sir.
Okay, before I do that, though, I have to say something about the late Reggie Lewis. Can I do that?
Please.
There's only a handful of players, because I was at the tail end of my career, but there's only a handful of players that I played against in 10, 11 years that you would say right away that he's going to be a superstar. Not just a superstar, dominant NBA player, period. And I remember that about him when I was trying to guard him or doing something. He was torturing me a little bit here and there. I'm like, man, I'm glad I'm about to retire because this won't be very pretty moving forward. But I had to say that because it was on my mind. So let's talk about the 20th century, okay? Because I misread the questions. Mo gave me the wrong. Mo wants to win so badly that he took some things out. So but that's okay. Are you trying to say reading is fundamental? Are you saying that, Mo? Because I definitely didn't read it correctly. But I do have the all-inspiring moment for me is actually personal because I grew up, I told you, in Little Rock, Arkansas. I watched NBA basketball coming up. There were normally one game per week on Sundays. And it was always where I live, the Celtics. You had the Celtics would play, the Bulls would play, the Lakers, and every once in a while the Baltimore Bullets. That's who you saw. And I remember watching these great Celtic teams because they were on every Sunday and how they moved the basketball. Like, wow, that's just great basketball. So I'm a 15-year-old young man. I didn't really think I would play in the NBA. I never watched the NBA game and said, one day that would be me. That was just so far like away from me that I never thought that would happen. But one thing we always tell young people, and we tell CEOs and people that are doing mentoring, is that you really can't be what you can't see. You can't be what you can't see. And I remember I went to 2 ABA basketball games. That shows you how old I am. When I was in junior high school. The second one was when I was in high school. I was 15 years old. I was a sophomore. Coach Charles Ripley, bless his soul, he took me and a couple more people 2 hours to Memphis, drove to the ball game, stayed at a hotel. And so we're at the hotel and we need to have lunch before the game. We walk across the street to the Piccadilly Circle cafeteria. They had great food. And we walk in and we see these really tall basketball guys. It was the Virginia Squares. They were at the place we were eating. And they had these Superfly hats on and the bell-bottom pants, double knit. And they were just so cool. And they look like, wow, that's an NBA player. I was like, whoa, I've never seen a pro basketball player before in my life live. And I saw them at that point in time. And we watched them eat. We watched how they communicate with each other. We watched how respectful they were. And that moment shaped how I dealt with people somewhat as a pro basketball player, even a college basketball player, because I wanted to be human you said it earlier, they were what? Human. They were engaging. They were respectful. They were kind. They were all the things that a person should be if you're at a certain status. And so I never wanted to be that athlete that would blow off a kid or a parent, or that would be mean or disrespectful to a person simply because they want to say, hey, I love the way you play the game of basketball. And that experience, watching them, first of all, watching them at the restaurant and then watching them play the Memphis Tams, the game that evening, shaped how I felt I needed to interact with people. And that was just so much fun. In addition to, you can't be what you can't see. So I saw it, and at some point I internalized that, and I started to become that. Being a pro basketball player was not as far-fetched because I had seen a pro basketball player. Being a person that was kind and respectful and wanted to show compassion to others, that was easy to do because I had seen that in a basketball player. And that was a moment that just resonates with me throughout my entire life.
That's beautiful, man. I like what you said, where you internalized it, you saw it, and then you became it. That's forward thinking. I'm not gonna. That was an accident.
That was an accident. I was.
No.
I'm not gonna take credit for that. It just happened to me. I was in a good environment with my family. We had a great coach. I had a lot of good things around me, but that sort of like put the stamp on it that, hey, this is who you need to be. This is how you need to treat people. You need to. We do an initiative. I've written a book, Kindness in Action, in the workplace, and being kind and generous to people is something that we should all be intentional about. I tell people you have to be intentional about it. Otherwise, opportunities to be kind and compassionate will bypass you because we're living our lives. And so kindness, that's so important in my world to do that.
It comes out of you, and it's so natural. And I think that's because, when you believe you are something and you become that, especially when it's positive, it gravitates. I think people absorb that. I used to tell my students, you have within you right now everything you need to deal with whatever the world can throw at you. But the problem is most people fail in life not because they aim too high and they miss. It's because they aim too low and they hit. They settle.
Absolutely. Now, I do have to tell you that my best friend, Tommy Tapley, junior high school, played together, high school, played together, known him for 60 years.
Right.
We were talking last summer, and he said, man, you were a bully. I'm like,
just out of nowhere, you guys are talking about something. Now you're a bully.
He said, you were a bully. I said, I wasn't a bully. He said, yes, you were. You were a bully. I'm like, man, what? But I think what he meant was when I played basketball, I was a bully. I will say that. I didn't want to lose. I'm going to play hard. I'm going to try to get every call.
Is that why Paul Mokeski never wanted to leave Milwaukee and was there for 7 seasons?
Probably so.
Yeah, people said stuff to my wife Linda all the time, like,
right?
Why is he at what? Yeah, but on the floor I'm one guy, off the floor I'm a different guy, and I'm on the floor. The reason I'm like that on the floor is because I need to survive in this game where all these talented players are.
Yeah, Paul was our white Bob Lanier.
White Bob Lanier, and you had the actual Bob Lanier too. You actually had Bob Lanier too.
He was our white Bob Lanier. Bob Lanier and Mo, they were defenders. You could always depend on them to have your back.
Man,
right?
You guys were loaded. Paul Pressey, Junior Bridgman. I mean, you guys.
I said, you could always depend on Paul Mokeski to have your back.
God Almighty!
I'm either gonna maybe block a shot, but I might probably take a charge, and at the very least, I'm gonna foul the heck out of him. I know that.
And just say,
they can know you're there. Yeah.
There's a photograph in the Bucks arena where Danny Ainge, who I love as a player, really, he's a competitor. But we got into a little misunderstanding, and I actually picked him up and dumped him like
I got that photo.
Muggsy, neighborhood stuff. You know what I'm saying?
According to the caption, it was just dancing. It was ball dancing.
And so I looked at the picture, and I saw Bird. I saw Paris. I saw all Boston players all around me. Dennis Johnson, all around me. And I text Junior Bridgman, Harvey, and somebody. I said, "Man, where were you guys?" I know Mo would have been there.
Yeah. Harvey Catchings, right?
Huh?
Harvey Catchings.
Harvey Catchings, yeah, but none of them was nowhere around. I was surrounded by Boston players. I was on top of Danny, and those guys were all around me. Mo would have been there had he not been so far down on the bench.
And I was way down on the bench, and I heard my wife Linda's, "Don't get off the bench. It's $500 fine. Don't do that."
That's right. Yeah, they started. That's what they
think about, like, Danny Ainge stepped up to 7'2" Tree Rollins in a series once. I mean, that thing in '83, I think it happened. Now, look, you had a lot of grace. You actually had a dog named Grace, didn't you, Sidney?
I did. You on top of it had a little Roddy named Grace.
A Rottweiler. Yeah, right?
Sure did.
Okay. Now, the one thing I want to ask Sidney is this, because, again, being teammates with Paul Mokeski, this is something I definitely have to bring up. There's a lot of things that you would talk about sometimes, a lot of little isms that you'd have. Sometimes those isms extend to teammates. When you would see backup center Paul Mokeski sitting on the sideline, there was a chip bone in his ankle. You would position yourself at 3-point distance, and you would call out, "Mo, milkshake on this." Is that right or wrong?
Did I say? I don't know. I'm 67 years old. I don't remember. I don't remember.
Oh, milkshake on this. Milkshake on this.
All I know, if he called it, he probably would make it. If he called it.
Here's the thing. Kenny Field said Sidney had a saying for every player, but we could go to him. But he'd have something for all of us. He had these lines of dialogue. It's kind of like the first person I wrote for was Carl Reiner, who was Rob Reiner's father. I wrote for Carl Reiner, and I was 21 years old out of film school going, what the hell did I just get caught up into? I mean, I wasn't even born in this country. I came here with nothing in my pocket, grew up in Queens, New York. Now I'm in L.A., and the first person I'm writing for is Carl freaking Reiner, a legend. And I remember this kid in the writer's room asked him, around my age, asked him, "Carl, you got any advice for me? Because I'm about to do stand-up, and I'm going to write this character for you. It's going to be a monologue, and I just want to get some great advice for you." So Carl Reiner sits like this, kind of just he looks all wise, and he's caressing his beard. And he says, "Come here, kid." And the kid leans over, and he says, "I got some great advice for you." He goes, "What is it?" "Don't suck."
That's the key, right?
Oh, Reiner advice, don't suck. And sometimes the simplicity in that, right? Like the coaches, some of the best coaches in the world, right? Maybe shouldn't have to overdo it all the time. It's not always X's and O's, because you're dealing with players who are adults, who've been through high school, college, now they're pros. And don't get me wrong, there's nothing wrong with being prepared, of course. But there's such a thing as being overly prepared and over-talking and overwhelming your players. Sometimes you got to keep it simple. Am I right?
Absolutely. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, Nelly was like that, and Nelly was the first coach I saw. Well, part of it is because we had Sid and Press and Bob and guys like that on the team. But I remember going to the first shoot around on a 10-day contract, and Nelly was asking Sid, "How do you want to guard Bird? How do you want to do this? We'll try it this way." So you can coach. I coached for over 20 years. Sid has coached a long time. Muggs coached. You coach during practice and in video room, but during the game, you could do some strategy stuff. But you can't coach a player. You got to show them what to do and let them do it. That's part of the deal.
I like what you said. I never heard that. You can't coach a player.
You can't coach a player during the game. If you're telling a player, "Hey, run. Hey, block out. Hey, do this." They can't play the game if you're yelling at them. You got to trust them to do that. And one of the things I learned early in my career, and sometimes you got to be a player that can get the hell out of the way. Stay out of Sidney's way. Stay out of Presley's way. Stay out of Marcus Johnson's way. Stay out of, all these players. Stay out of their way. Get in a position where if they need you, they can use you. But get out of their way. And a lot of players in today's game don't understand that. They always want to be the guy.
And you know what? This may sound crazy, Muggsy and Sidney and Paul, but even when I think about the old dunk contests, a lot of people forget that the guys who were in the dunk contest that were considered major stars, like the Jordans, the Clyde Drexlers, the Dominiques, they weren't doing this for money. They were doing it as a way to challenge themselves. How do we find a way to challenge ourselves? And the players of today, without naming names, because there's no reason to do that, not all, not to generalize, you just get the sense that they're not trying to challenge themselves. The great thing about the Michael Jordans of the world, where people said he wasn't the strongest, he wasn't the best shooter, but that man found a way to find slights that weren't even real. He found ways to motivate himself, to challenge himself, to rise to the occasion. LeBradford Smith found out, but I mean, a lot of players who played against the very best, like a Muggsy Bogues, a Sidney, a Paul. I'll ask Muggsy this, and then Muggsy's got topic number one. Muggsy, 82 games in a season. You guys are playing 3 games in 5 nights. Sometimes you got to find something to motivate yourself, right?
Absolutely. That's why you uplift one another, because everybody go through things differently, and everybody, experience things differently, and how they react differently. So, and how we all learn differently. But when you keep everybody accountable, it all stems from that leader. And as you mentioned about also how to get people more incentivized to compete harder.
Sure.
It comes within. I mean, back then we didn't have to have that conversation because it was in the players. Everybody understood the importance of competing, understood the importance of the brand. What we did back then, and even what Sid and Mo did before me, in terms of set the standards of what the players come after you, and people, I don't think the players to this day understand the importance of the guys that came before them, because the All-Star weekend is now being talked about not being what it is for the fans, being competitive. You got guys land on the floor during the course of the game where that's never took place. Guys, you got the top, you got the top of the cream of the crop of the league competing. And when they compete, it really display and show out there in terms of the passion for the game. It's not about the dollar and the cents. Now today's, we gotta incentivize these guys in order to play, just to even compete, which should never be the case. And then when it comes to competition and when it comes to the love of the game, because that's when we first started, getting yourself involved in the game because of the passion, the love that you have for it.
I mean, think about your case. Everybody, the scouts saw you in college. They saw you for years in college. But then you go to the NBA camps in Portsmouth, Virginia, and Chicago. You go there in the spring. That made the world a difference because those camps were kind of like another season.
It's a different setting. It's also a different setting, too. And they get to see you in a different light.
Right.
The collegiate, they watch you playing against collegiate players, but then it's a collegiate type of setting. The combine and the Portsmouth and all that, it kind of gives you that NBA setting. So it puts you in that type of situation where you're being judged now based on your skill set or what you possibly can, move on to that next level.
Well, guys and gals, that's Muggsy Bogues. My friend, will be the same question I posed to Sidney and to Paul. If you can select the most awe-inspiring moment in the 20th and 21st century, which moments would you select as the most awe-inspiring moments? The floor is yours whenever you're ready to go, good sir.
Oh, gosh. I guess as I can probably piggyback off of what Sid. I was a lot younger, growing up when a lot of things was taking place. In 1965, when I came into this world, women had the opportunity to vote. A lot of things was going on back in 63 in terms of, the bombing of the church and so forth, and a lot of things that happened back then. When I became interested in the game of basketball, when I just start peeking that this is a possibility that what I'm trying to pursue as a career, as a possible means of changing my whole narrative of my family, in terms of pursuing a game that nobody believed that a guy can actually pursue. And as I did my research, as I talked about looking at some of the guys in the NBA who kind of fit, what I possibly may end up being, knowing that I wasn't going to grow much taller. My father was only 5'7", my mom was 5 feet, my oldest brother was 5'5", and my sister was 5'1", so I knew I was going to be in that 5-foot range. When I couldn't find that person, it really frustrated me because I thought that the game of basketball, as people always said, is meant for bigger and taller players. But when I discovered a young man in my neighborhood, he kind of gave me that, maybe so. It's a possibility. And then discovering the Calvin Murphys and the Charlie Chris, seeing those actually on that type of stage and that type of setting, it really started to, doing a lot of things in my brain. I start visualizing. I start really thinking that, man, can I really play this game with these guys? Can I really compete with these guys? Even though I'm hearing, with around my neighborhood that, what are you worrying about playing basketball when you're only 4 feet tall? Well, focus on something that can lead to you possibly changing the narrative of your family. Focus on wrestling, if you want to play sports, because it's something that don't come with no type of height criteria, no height requirement. So, all that stuff was playing in my head very strongly. But I think what I went through as a kid, getting shot and having to overcome those buckshots. And then, as you mentioned earlier, when I met my blessing, I will call him Mr. Leon Howard, when he gave me that information and allowed me to really start to focus on the fundamental aspects of the game, and I was able to learn that aspect of it, and then not knowing that God had given me natural ability to really play the game as well and see it from a whole different perspective. By witnessing all of that and by seeing Charlie and Calvin play on the highest level that you can ever play on in the NBA, it really fueled me, and it really started that journey for me that I didn't care about what anybody said, what anybody believed, because now I always tell a kid that people will always tell you who you could be, who you should be, but you already know who you want to be. And I had that understanding early on as a kid, which allowed me to really navigate through all the naysayers and all that adversity, and allowed me to really keep climbing the ladder, keep pursuing it, even though facing with the coaches, because the coaches still was in that mentality that we need a big guard to run my program in order for us to be successful. So understanding how to still break down the barriers, giving these coaches another view of how the game can be played, and still can be impactful, just as like a bigger or taller guard. It really fueled me. It really gave me an understanding that anything is possible if you put your mind to it. No one has that true control of you, not if you allow them. So if you're able to really focus on you as an individual, the confidence, as Sid said, it's that mantra mentality. If you don't see it, you don't believe it. And I was able to see it, and I was able to believe it, and I was able to take advantage of it moving forward.
And you did it so well. And of course, how could anybody take criticism and measure it as something that's rather important when it comes from people anyway that don't believe in you or know who you are or know your story? Think about it. Your mom and dad thought you were in the house, but you're outside. And one of the gentleman owners who had a store there, Old Manchester, right? They took a rock, they threw it at his window, they shattered his window. He comes out, he's mad, he grabs his double-barreled shotgun. All the kids in the neighborhood who were around started running, and then he just grabs his double-barrel shotgun out of rage and starts shooting. And unfortunately for you, you get hit with the buckshots. Yes. I mean, think about the odds of that, Muggsy.
Yeah, that was that. I mean, the environment that I grew up in, and I'm thankful for that because it made me to the young man I am today.
Sure.
It gave me understanding how to see things and how to, when you're faced with adversity, how to really navigate through that. And I was navigating through adversity ever since I was a kid. So it has been nothing new. But, when you overcome some type of drama like that, and when we was growing up, life expectancy wasn't past 20, consider what our friends have been through and so forth. So when you're able to overcome all of that and you're able to, still, have some joy in the process, in terms of your journey, trying to pursue your dreams, those are something that you always, look back and be thankful for.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And again, the fact you guys stay so grounded and give it back the way that you do is remarkable. That's not something. I wish there were headline news that were positive. I wish we'd start like a news program on CNN or Fox News with, hey, Muggsy spoke to a bunch of kids today. And have that be a 10-minute piece that opens up the news. I mean, after a while, people would probably process that and go, you know what? That's normality. Maybe that's human nature that we can accept because we're conditioned to seeing it every day. And maybe we should do some of those things that we're not used to doing because then it'll become like lather, rinse, repeat. Wait, you didn't watch the news? You missed that great news story? Yeah, gee, I should have done that. I don't care if it sounds like an episode of Leave It to Beaver. I just wish we can get to that place. I'm telling you.
It's sad because we learned early in our careers as pro athletes that if you do something wrong or if somebody does something wrong, that's one page. If you do something right, like visit Children's Hospital, that's on the 6th and 7th page. That's the fact of where you are. But it is really sad that it can't be flip-flopped. If it was flip-flopped, imagine what would be going on now. Everybody would be paying attention to good stuff, not as much the bad stuff.
So why do you think I started writing as a screenwriter? Is to get away, and this isn't some but growing up in Queens, I didn't speak the English language till I was 6. I was made fun of. I wasn't from this country, and to be able to write was my escape. I could write a reality that I wanted for myself because I was bullied for not understanding how to speak English. I could write before I learned how to speak, which is rare. I knew some words here and there, but it's such a blessing to be able to write something and then make sure it comes to fruition when you look at it daily. We have the power to write something every day in the morning, something as trivial as I'm getting milk, or something as maybe a little bit more complex as I'm going to try to inspire someone at a soup kitchen that doesn't have anyone to listen to their story. And it's wait, now that I wrote it down, maybe I'm obligated to make sure it happens. It's a beautiful thing knowing what we're capable of. It really is. And here I am speaking to the choir of men who do this all the time. To see you guys shower each other with respect, I get goosebumps, man. Because it means that, as cheesy as it sounds, humanity has hope when something like that happens. When you guys can reflect upon your careers, but then talk about the individuals. The first, Paul Mokeski cuts Sidney off and goes, "Hey, don't listen to Sidney. He's a great guy, and let me tell you why." And then Sidney cuts off Muggsy and goes, "Hey, Muggsy, you inspired me." And then Muggsy's telling, "Hey, Mo," so for you guys to be able to do that, I wish our audience could do that as well, because all we really need is time and a piece of paper. That's all we need. Time and paper. And
well, you're the best I've seen. You're the Michael Jordan or LeBron James, whoever you want to make the GOAT.
Yes.
You gotta have a little more. You have to have more positivity and more energy, and you'll be okay.
But Mo, you have some plays on your backboard. Are those really plays, or you?
Oh.
Yeah.
Are you? Is that a psychological tactic against Muggsy?
I see pistol. We know it. Okay.
Yeah, I got horns. I got horns twist up there.
Okay.
Oh wow! Look at this.
I do my show. I do FaceTime, Facebook Live at 9:00 Eastern time.
Great show.
We got next, and this is my background. And I got a text from some coach in high school in Philly, going, "Hey, can you move over next time so I can see the end of Horns Twist?"
That's such a coach thing to say.
Mo and I worked together at the D League, and wherever I got a basketball job, I wanted him. Seriously, I didn't get very many, but he was just really a good basketball mind. But Mo, I need to remind you that none of that stuff works unless you have great players.
Absolutely, I know. Absolutely. I was watching I think it was a KU game, even though they blew it last game, and sitting with a bunch of people, and somebody from KU takes a 30-footer, and I'm like, no, and I went in, I'm like, yeah, good shot.
Yeah. I thought all that X's and O stuff was to psych out Sidney Muggsy in this tournament. Am I wrong?
Yeah.
I mean that. Guys,
well, we know some of that stuff works though if you run it right.
It's really cool to see. And guys, what's cool to see now is 60-second video, and then we're done with topic number 2 is coming up right after this. It's a very quick question, and then we're out of here. This is a tribute to those we've lost who've been a part of this awesome journey, and we bid them adieu with this video, which shows them the respect we have for them. Options for Gallagher, more underrated than why? Sauerkraut, Henry Kissinger's deep soothing voice, or dogs wearing sweaters?
I like dogs wearing sweaters.
Did you have fun?
Yeah, I haven't done an interview in 20 years.
Mr. Sizemore, first name Tom. How are you, my friend? So I could turn the volume lower if you'd like next time. If you'd like me to do that, Tom, I could do that.
Wow, that was something else. I don't know what I can do now.
Oh, please.
That was terrific, man.
Thank you, my friend. I appreciate that. And what, as charming as a guy that you are, man, and as honest as a guy as you are, and as down-to-earth as a guy as you are, you played a character that isn't so down-to-earth named Scrooge in college. You played Scrooge, and of course, I feel like a thespian should rely on their instinct. Do you feel like you rely on your instinct a lot as a storyteller as well?
I mean, playing Scrooge at that young an age was, when I think about it now, I only way I could have done it is I was relying on my instincts. You know, I could have done it the other way. Okay.
More underrated than why? Unicycles, Italian men named Skippy, or sophisticated dinosaurs?
What? More sophisticated dinosaurs?
Yeah,
I want to say the sentence. Italian men named Skippy. I just want to say.
Yes. Yeah. Italian men named Skippy.
I just want to say the sentence. Italian men named Skippy.
Yeah, something you'll never hear. Yeah. Did you have fun? Did you have a nice time?
I had a great time. It was ball.
Yeah, man.
I want to do it again. This is great. I just think it's going to be, a lot of fun for people. I don't think people. There's nothing like this on the air. I don't think really. No, there isn't. I just think it's going to be I'm very interested in how people respond to it. Because I know it's going to be interesting and see if people tune in and stay tuned in, and I really hope they do. And I'm all yours, bro. Let's go out and make this work. All right. I'll talk to you soon. Okay. Bye.
I teach a workshop, and one of my students finally said about my class about iambic pentameter. He finally said, I got it, and he was excited. And it was both his elation and those 3 words that make it worthwhile, right?
Amen. Amen. You got it. But I think I've got to have equally passionate people involved in the production of it. That passion will override any reservations anybody has as to the show's potential for entertainment or education.
Did you feel as if transitioning to the stage and performing live theater was a natural fit for you?
Yes, I did. I always felt very comfortable on stage, more so on stage than I did in film or television. So I'm looking forward to you, Avi, giving me your thoughts and your input, because as I told you, that piece that you sent me is, I love good writing, and I think
Thank
that's
you,
been
sir.
my career. And this is a beautiful piece of writing, as I said. I'm referring to the piece that you wrote me. You're onto something because you're a writer. You're a creative force, and I want to hook up.
Thank you so much for those kind words, guys. Thank you for being you, my friend. I appreciate you and respect you wholeheartedly.
And that goes double for me to you, Avi.
One, my dad would have loved sitting here with you guys, and I kind of feel like he is. 2, if you had the pleasure of meeting John Amos, there wasn't one moment where you weren't inspired by that man.
Mm. Yes.
I mean, the conversations we had about the civil rights movement, Medgar Evers, I remember telling him how I left teaching history because my assistant principal pulled me to the side and said, Avi, you spelled Frederick Douglass's name wrong. You put 2 S's at the end of his name. And I knew deep in my heart, I got to leave. Because if my assistant principal doesn't know how to spell Frederick Douglass's last name, we're in trouble. I couldn't teach about the Buffalo Soldiers. I couldn't teach the real history in this country because I was shackled. And to do it now with you gentlemen, where we can go anywhere we want, we go comedy, we go life, we go basketball, we go history. There are no shackles. And it's beautiful to do that. And I just wish that our educators would get themselves educated before educating the young men and women in this country. I really do.
You know what? It's also a shame that sometimes we have to listen to what people say after they're gone. And I think the days of, I remember when I came to the league and you guys came to the league, we always have veterans to look up to. They took us under their wing. I mean, when I was a rookie in Houston, I I've flown like twice in my life. I've never been to restaurants. You know, Moses Malone, Rudy T, Calvin Murphy, they taught me how to tip at an airport, how to check into a hotel, how to, you know, order off a menu. And, you know, because they were veterans and they were sharing their knowledge. And that goes with all parts of life, with actors, with just people, just our family, you know, our grandparents, our older uncles and aunties. You know, it's a shame that, you know, we all get, oh, wow, look at that was so insightful what they said. Well, guess what? We should start listening when people are still here. It's still insightful.
Yes, when they're still here. And, you know, Muggsy, maybe the same for you, my friend. Moses Malone, he was kind of someone who took you under his wing, gave you the ins and outs of the NBA, how to stay focused, stay even-keeled. Moses did that as well, right?
Absolutely. Well, Moses was my vet. You know, he took me on his wing. Without his guidance, I wouldn't have played 14 years. I mean, he told me the do's and don'ts off the court. And it's kind of ironic. You know, I played the point guard position. He was the center, but he was the one that really took a liking into me. And really, and you know, till he took his last breath, you know, we were so close.
Wow.
Yeah, another Moses story. I remember as a rookie going to camp, trying to make the team, and we're practicing at Baptist College or something like that. And, you know, I get a cab or whatever because I don't have a car or anything. And Moses always pulls up in a different car every day. He's got like 7 different cars. And, you know, I'm like, wow, this is amazing. And, you know, I got the courage one day after practice to ask him, Moses, how, you know, you have all these cars. He says, you know why, big fella? Because I can afford to.
That's great. Man, Sidney, would you say that Quinn Buckner was one of the vets there that a lot of the young players in Milwaukee looked up to as well?
Oh, yes. Quinn was a pro. He's an ultimate pro as a player and as a person. And he was a good point guard. He was very strong, very, very intelligent. And I just remember Quinn, and this is something just minor, he would wear flip-flops into the shower. Now, while I grew up, we barely had a pair of shoes. So flip-flops were just like, you know, and I would say, why the hell are you wearing flip-flops? I'm saying in my mind, where are you wearing flip-flops into the shower? Just go barefoot like everybody else does. But he didn't do that. Fast forward 40 years later, I understand why he wore flip-flops.
Oh, got it. Yeah.
All these germs and bacteria, everything is right there.
That's almost as weird as my ex-girlfriend who would turn the water on, put shampoo on her hair, and then go in the shower. I never understood it. I turn it on when I'm in the shower. Do you guys do the same thing, right? I'm assuming.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
That's kind of like a normal thing. Yeah. But there's a lot of weird things that happen. Do you ever notice that if you're supposed to put something in a microwave for 2 minutes, you rarely wait the full 2 minutes? I can never wait the full 2 minutes. No, right? Ever. Like 154, and this is the part of my brain that I don't understand. I beat myself up. I'm like, Avi, it's 154. You can't wait 6 seconds. Nope, pull it out.
Pull it out.
I don't understand. I just don't get these things that happen sometimes. They're very strange. But guys, here's what's not strange. What's not strange is that these gentlemen are about right now to tackle the final topic. You guys and gals and pals in the comment section will vote who moves on. We'll find out. Right now, I'm going to kick it over to Mr. Tyrone Bogues, Mr. Muggsy Bogues, who's going to give us now the final topic. I'll read it out loud. It's all about titling a screenplay about this year. Muggsy, if you could title a screenplay about the year 2025, any way you see it, what would you title it and why? The floor is yours whenever you're ready to go, good sir.
If I could title a screenplay, what would I title it? No Small Thing.
Yes.
No Small Thing. That will be the title of it. And that will be the journey of my life in terms of where I've come from, little kid from the project to the Godfather of small ball.
Wow. That's. Let me ask you this. Do you feel, Muggsy, as if the title of a screenplay can make or break a book or a script, the title?
Absolutely. Because that's where the title is, it gives you that behind the scene, what you're looking forward to. And anytime you have a good title, something that people are always inquisitive, want to know, leads it to something really special.
Yeah, I agree with that. I agree. It's got to catch your eye. I agree. Mr. Paul Mokeski, I'll ask you the same question, my friend. If you
go ahead.
If you could title a screenplay about the year 2025 as a whole, what would you title it and why? Whenever you're ready to go, the floor is yours, good sir.
All right, are you ready? Move with caution. There are unlimited possibilities, good and bad. Move forward with caution.
I like that. Wow, move with caution. Man, move with caution. I see what you're saying. Hey, you know what? I wish we could stop rooting for our politicians the way we root for our sports teams. Can we stop doing that? Why do people have to treat it like a popularity contest? You know what I mean? Why do they have to say, well, you're definitely not my friend and you're not invited anymore because you didn't vote left or right? What the hell is going on here? Can't people have a civil discourse anymore? Can't we talk about...
Just like in coaching, when coaching became criticism back years ago, it wasn't coaching anymore; it was criticism.
Oh, okay.
Just like that, today in politics, you know, anything I say becomes facts, even though they're not. So that's
I guess because people are fact checking stuff on TikTok these days.
Exactly. Yeah.
Who would have thought TikTok would become headline news, right? I mean,
yeah, from some 19-year-old kid that's doing a skateboard off a 50-foot cliff or something.
Right? I mean, think about it. We go from Uncle Walty to TikTok. How have we progressed exactly? Walter Cronkite, TikTok. How have we made progress? It's just insane when you think about that. But again, I am glad that people do have the right to do what they want. I just wish that they understood what they should understand by fact checking. Like when people complain about the government, when people complain about their bosses, we have the opportunity to find out what the real truth is if we take our time and do so. We have the opportunity to do that. I don't Wikipedia anything because I don't trust Wikipedia. I really don't. Just like I don't trust ex-girlfriends named Dallas, but that's a different story.
If someone tells you that tariffs are good, then you should look up what a tariff is and how it really works before you make an opinion.
Whoa.
I'm telling you, it's just I just wish people, Paul, Sidney, and Muggsy, man, I don't bleed left or right. I really don't. I'm one of those few people that feel like a lot of this is preordained, is that the powers that be want us to quarrel with each other and want us to fight with one another and want us to subscribe to one person's policy over the other person's because they want us at odds with each other. That's how they could do the real bidding behind the scenes. You know, the news will never hear about. That's the stuff they really want. I mean, for us to think that that's crazy, well, damn, our government killed the president. Our government assassinated an actual president. JFK got killed by our own government. So we're supposed to trust what they tell us? God almighty. I mean, as long as we just do our due diligence, I think we could sleep good at night knowing that we may not be able to make a difference when it comes to the powers that be, but at least we can train our brain to understand the real truth. That's all I wish we could do. And of course, Paul, what you said earlier also, the flying cars with the Jetsons.
Sometimes you need to think that chaos is good for some people and chaos is not good for all the people.
That's so intelligent. That's very intelligent. Guys, we're going to finish things up right now with Sidney. It's our final participant with our final topic. Sidney, if you could title a screenplay about the year 2025 as a whole, what would you title it? Why, good sir? The floor is yours.
Well, I've written 12 books, 13 now. 13 is coming out in about 3 weeks, actually. It's called The Great Kids, My Grandkids, Teaches Grandpa Sid the Biz. So it's a book about entrepreneurship and also it's a book about grit. It's a book about literacy. But I'm going to go back to the first book I wrote, and it would be titled Reinvent You. The title would be Reinvent You, because I really believe that we should not ever feel like a failure defines who we are. We should never feel like we can't make an adjustment in our lifestyle, in our career, in our relationships, and that we have to always constantly be innovative in reinventing who we are in some shape, form, or fashion. And I just love that title. And I did this book, and I think about 20 years ago, roughly, and it came from the fact that I was in the NBA, I had an automobile dealership, and then I coached in the D League. Then I went to China. So I had all these things happening in like a 5-year span. I'm like, wow, that's a lot. And each time I had to reinvent who I was, and it was fun. It was challenging, and it's something that made me a better, more well-rounded person. So I think Reinvent You would be the title of my screenplay.
That's beautiful. And, guys, as we bid these gentlemen adieu in about a moment, I have to bring this up because, players today, complain about hangnails. Sidney Moncrief was part of the most unheralded, but yet most unbelievable series I've ever seen, which never gets spoken about. Think about this. A 7-game series in which 6 games are decided by 4 points or less. And all of this happens while Mount St. Helens erupts. Seattle, Milwaukee. Welcome to the NBA, Sidney Moncrief as a rookie. 1980, Seattle, Milwaukee, 7-game series. Every game is close like a seesaw.
Yes, that game still, the game 7 sticks in my mind when we lost in Seattle. But that was really our best opportunity. You just never know where your opportunities will come from. Looking back, that was our best opportunity to win a national NBA championship.
Sure. Yeah.
So Seattle had a great team then, but God, after that we had the Lakers. We had Boston, we had Philadelphia, all these great teams. But that series was so well played, and it was so close. And just a play here or there would have been the difference between us being, quote, a wannabe as opposed to being a really NBA championship team.
Dennis Johnson said that series took something out of them because they felt like they couldn't defend their title against the Lakers in the next round after that. So you guys really took it out of them. Guys and gals and pals, I'm going to play a tribute video right now. It's a 60-second video. One for Muggsy, one for Sidney, one for Paul. Guys, do you want to say anything to Muggsy Bogues? I'm going to play his video first. Sidney, Paul, anything you'd like to tell Mr. Muggsy Bogues? Tribute video, as we did you do.
We were talking about you, man. We were talking about you.
That's okay. That's okay.
More leadership.
That phone had died on me.
That's okay. I was going to ask Sidney and Paul, do you want to tell anything Muggsy before he departs?
Hey, I appreciate you as a player and as a person. Absolutely. Every time I see you or hear your name, I'm like, yeah, that's the guy. Just want you to know that.
Thanks.
Yeah. Yeah, I would say it's so nice to get to know you a little bit more because we knew each other as players, but your story is freaking phenomenal and inspiring off the court as well as on the court, the things you've gone through. And thank you for sharing with the younger generation. They need to hear stuff like that.
100%.
Thank you, guys. Thank you both. I mean, you guys don't realize how much you guys played a big part of my life. The stage that you guys set and the presence on and off the court, playing against you, Sid. I mean, my rookie year was like a joy, man, just to be on the court with you because I watched you so many as a youngster, watching you perform. And, Paul, man, getting to see you and getting to know you now a little better, it's truly a blessing to have the opportunity to take the court with both of you guys. So thank you both for the career that you have and with the things that you guys mean for, these younger players that's coming before us. So I want to say just
beautiful.
For your
Beautiful.
This is my son's favorite picture, me blocking you.
You see that, Muggsy?
I was blocking you, baby.
You know what? He's going to enjoy this too because Paul and Sidney, I'm going to put you backstage for 1 second. I'm going to play Muggsy's tribute video right now. Muggsy, I'm going to play your tribute video. Kind of like a memory lane, a trip down memory lane. It's about 60 seconds. I hope you enjoy this, my friend. This is from me to you. Man, you need to hear this before I let you go. You, my friend, are not only a great playmaker to make people better on the court, you make people better off the court. That's how I feel.
Thank you, buddy. I tell you, this was very special. Appreciate you having me on this show. Seeing some of the guys back in the day, man, it really warmed my heart. This is an awesome show. Thank you for having me, including me.
Absolutely, my friend. I will talk to you soon, and you have a great rest of the afternoon.
All right, partner. You have a good one.
You too.
Okay.
The great Muggsy Bogues, guys and gals and pals. A great human being. Like I said, a playmaker who makes people better even when he's not playing. And I could say the same, and I will, about Sidney and Paul, because I'm already getting to know Paul Mokeski, and I like him. A, he's a straight shooter. B, he's a straight shooter. And C, he's got a good heart. And Sidney Moncrief, I already feel like I know you. And that's the best compliment I can give anybody. I don't just give out compliments freely. Like, I was taught, by my mom and dad, you don't have nothing nice to say, don't say anything at all. But I feel like I already know you, man. You make people around you better, and you have such a glow about you.
Thank you. Thank you. That's who I am. It's easy to just be who you are, right? You don't have to fake anything.
That's the great way of telling. Do you tell people that, right? Like, that's the easiest to be you.
Absolutely. Love it.
This is also a trip down memory lane of sorts. For me to you, my friend, I hope you enjoy this.
I will.
Man, there are no words to say how much you deserve that, my friend, because when you smile, we smile. Did this exceed your expectations?
I'm sorry?
Did this exceed your expectations today?
Absolutely. Definitely. It's very unique, and it's inspiring, and it's content driven, and it has an intentional purpose of making everyone better. So great job in that area.
Thank you, my friend. You had a nice time?
I had a great time. And I got some good footage for my workshops.
Does this mean if you face Paul Mokeski in the finals of this whole tournament, I mean, will you go easy on Paul?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. That's my boy, but he has to lose if we go ahead. You got to win, right?
You got to win at the end of the day. Yeah.
If you don't want to win.
Well, a lot of people win in life because you, my friend, and I appreciate you for joining us today. Hats off to you. Can't wait to talk to you again, and I hope you have a great rest of the evening.
Thank you, and you have the best year ever. That's my saying. Your best year ever.
Thank you, my friend.
Thank you.
Sidney Moncrief. Guys, I'm going to bring Paul Mokeski. And Paul, you were right about Sidney. What a class act.
Yeah, I told you.
What a great human being. You said the first thing you said to me was, Sidney's one of the greatest guys I've ever met, even outside the game. And you were right.
Yeah, he's class. There's guys like that and Dr. J, guys like that just exude goodness, and they're truthful and they try to help people. And they never take anything for granted. I was a player in the NBA for 12 years. I was a backup for the most part. But, when I see Sid or Dr. J or, they give me a hug and how you doing? And, I saw Shaquille O'Neal at the tournament here and he gave me a hug. There's guys like that just have it. And Sidney is definitely one of them. He's one of the best guys. One of my best.
I feel like I've known him for a while. And, don't ever undersell that because most players that make it to the NBA play 3 or 4 years. You played a dozen years. Your goal is to play 10, and you exceeded that by 2 extra seasons.
Yep, I knew my role, accepted my role, and besides the first couple of years, I was on playoff teams for the remainder of my career, and I think I counted up how many series I was in. Like 25 playoff
25.
series.
I always wanted to ask you this because growing up and watching the game, I'd make these little connections in my head instead of researching my science projects. I was making connections in NBA. I always wondered, was the Golden State lead helpful because of Don Nelson being the coach there? Because of your prior relationship to him in Milwaukee, did that kind of help getting that spot in Golden State, do you think, with Don?
Yeah, no, it's no question. I'll tell you what happened. I had gone to San Antonio Spurs camp and I tweaked my knee. Right. And Larry Brown was the coach, and they had David Robinson and Avery and some guys. Sure. And they cut me, so I was looking for a team to go to, and no one had any interest in me. I was a decent backup and could still play. So after trying for so many months, right after Christmas, I called Nelly up in Golden State. I called him up and I said, "Hey, Coach, you have a good team there. You got Run TMC with Mully and Timmy and Mitch. You got some nice young talent around them. But what you need me, a big center who knows how to shoot the ball, pass the ball, high basketball IQ. And I know what you want and I know how to win." And I said, "Listen, here's the deal. I was in Kansas at the time. Fly me out to Golden State. Let me practice and try out with the team. If you like it, sign me to a 10-day. If you don't like the shape I'm in or whatever, you send me home. I'll buy you all the beer and dinner you can drink that night before I go." And he said, "That's a deal." And I knew I'd been working out 3 times a day. I was in great shape. And I knew after the Christmas break, those other backup dudes wouldn't be in great shape. And I ran them into the floor. And I ended up signing a 10-day, another 10-day, and then for the rest of the season. And we beat Spurs that cut me. We beat them in the first round. That they were the second seed. We won.
They won the first game, and everybody thought that was it. And then you guys reel off 3 straight victories. Yep. And if I'm not mistaken, you tied the Lakers in round 2. At one point, it was tied 1-1.
Yeah, we win and we won split at home, but we lost that, and the Lakers went into the finals. But you're right. I mean, if I don't know Nelly and I don't make that call, there's no way I have that Run TMC experience that was really high up there in my career.
No, but you took that, and as a coach, I'm sure there are so many things that you applied from the great coaches you learned under. But then again, as a player, I keep saying this, we travel in the same circles, and a lot of the players will say this, and our viewers are going to hear this now. You weren't a player that was merely a bench player or a practice player. You were a reliable player. You were a coach's player. When a coach knew that Paul Mokeski was on the floor, I think Sidney alluded to a little bit, they knew that Paul Mokeski was going to minimize mistakes. You weren't going to make mistakes. And that's so rare, right? Think about this. A lot of times people lose games because of trying to do something that they can't. You, my friend, knew that you were 7 feet tall. You could box out. You could rebound. You could block shots. You could set picks. You knew exactly what you had to do on the floor. And your teammates would always say the same thing about you that I just brought up, is that Paul didn't make mistakes.
And that's why I think my numbers go up during the playoffs, all those playoff series, because of that. You know, I didn't make mistakes. I knew the plays. I knew how to get out of the way. I knew how to make other players better, the better players. And I knew I could do whatever it takes to win. Yeah. And that's how I lasted. And that, you know, it's people don't understand. Coming off the bench is very, very difficult. It's very difficult in the NBA to come off the bench and be effective and not make mistakes. So, you know, it's a skill. So I was able to come off the bench. Here's what I equate it to. Right. It's like a NASCAR race. That's what the NBA is. It's a NASCAR race where all the cars are going 200 miles an hour, and now you're projected out of the pit starting from zero, and you're supposed to blend in with those cars going 200 miles an hour that have been going like that for 7 or 8 minutes. That's what it's like. And it takes physical to stay kind of ready and loose, but also very mental. You got to mentally go in. And I knew you don't want to go in and take a shot right away and do it. You needed to get a rebound, take a charge, and now you get the juices flowing. But, you know, it's a skill that a lot of players don't appreciate. And guess what, guys out there? Every coach in college and especially in the NBA are looking for those guys. They're looking for the 6th, 7th, and 8th guy because those are the guys that can help teams win championships.
You know, it's funny. And speaking of funny, you have a great sense of humor because I'm sure it's so annoying to hear over and over again someone asking you, "Hey, how tall are you?" And you might respond and say 7 foot, and they shoot back, "No, you're not." And at times, your friends answer for you, saying, "Hey, he's 5'10" or he's 8 feet, because they're tired of the questions. You've been married 43. Is it 43 or 44 years?
43, yeah.
43 years. And you could be standing next to your wife at a party, and someone will start talking to her and ask, "How tall is he? Does he sleep on a regular bed?" And you're like, "Hey, I'm here. I can hear everything you're saying right now."
I may be tall, but I can still hear.
I can still hear you guys from up here. Yeah.
You know, and it used to be, you know, when you're a teenager like I was, you know, skinny, awkward kind of, and even when you're growing up,
barely 200 pounds, right, Paul? Barely 200 pounds?
Yeah, I was 210, 215 in high school, but, you know, I grew up in Kansas, but you're still, you know, you don't fit in, you feel uncomfortable in crowds anyway, and now you hear this, but you grow into your body, and you got to realize, hey, you know, sometimes they don't, you know, sometimes I want to say something that's not so nice, and Linda will say, "Don't say that," or "I know what you're thinking." But that sometimes you got to just take it, you know, as a, you know, as a little, they don't know any better. And, I used to have people say, "Wow, you're tall. You must have played basketball." I would say, "No, I didn't have to play. I did, but I didn't have to."
You didn't have to, no, of course not. You know, I want to also bring this up because your sons played the game. If I'm not mistaken, your son Michael is 6'9", and he played at Nebraska, Omaha. Is that where he played?
Yeah, he played at Nebraska, Omaha, and then our youngest Brian played at Division II in Wichita. So, and then they played overseas for
7'1". Is Brian 7'1", Paul?
Yeah, he's 7'1". He played overseas for a little bit, and he's armed security for Caesars, and Michael is a police officer here in Vegas.
And Michael played professionally in Peru, right? Didn't he play in Peru?
Yeah, he played in Peru. Yep. So they both played a little bit. Yeah.
Oh, my friend, I definitely want to play this for you because you deserve it. This is, again, a tribute video from me to you, Mr. Paul Mokeski. As I scroll down here, guys and gals and pals.
I hope it has good music like the cool music you just played.
Oh, man. I wanted to actually, I was kind of like, I was going to ask you which music do you want me to put. So I'll surprise you. We'll get a yay or nay from Paul in about a minute. Was that a yay or nay with the music?
That was good, man. I think I'm not as cool as Sidney and Muggsy, so that music fit me well. I love it, man. I love. Yeah, I loved it. I love the show. I'm really honored to get to know you more and more, and we'll continue. And Muggsy it was great to get to see him and talk to him a little bit. And as you know, Sidney is one of my favorite guys in the world. Period. End of story.
You could tell, and I'll leave you with this because I think it's important for our viewers to know as well. You're so very talented, and you don't ever stop challenging yourself. We talked about that earlier, and I won't bring this up now because it's not the place. But collaborating with you, I got the sense right off I have a very busy schedule. The reason why I want to collaborate with you and why we're collaborating is because you take the art known as your passion so seriously, and you question it every day, and you don't apologize for it. I said earlier as a joke, but I also meant it, is that the thing about you is you don't mince words. You're a very direct person. And I think it speaks to me because I'm the same way, and it's easier for us to cut through all the crap when there's people out there that side talk. You definitely, I think, have inspired me in a way that I never thought could inspire me. Because today, I was sick as a dog, but I wanted to do my best for you because I know how much you care about this show. I know how much you care about the people you're around. I know how much you care about the viewers. And I also know about how much you care about the written word. The written word is my life. And I thank you for being very honest and transparent with me in ways that the viewers can't know. So with that,
I would say too that we're very similar because writing was your escape. And from the exchanges we've had with the project we're working on, you're amazing. And I could tell that was your escape. And basketball was always my escape as a player, as a coach, and now kind of sharing some of my information and stories. So we're very similar in that way. And I love to call you a friend now. So I'm very honored.
Likewise. And I want our viewers to know, where could they watch your awesome show? Because I think it's great.
We have a show on Monday nights, 9 o'clock, Facebook Live. It's called We Got Next, and it's also on YouTube and all those other stations. And we also have a show that's on YouTube. It's called Basketball Past, Present, and Future. That's on YouTube, and I do that with Jesse O, who's a young announcer in Florida, and CJ Watson, who played in the NBA for Orlando and Golden State. Sure. I actually coached him in the NBA Development League. So we talk basketball, past, present, and future. If you love the game of basketball, you need to tune in, subscribe. We have a ton of fun.
Yeah, guys, I want you to do that right now. This is a great show. It's a lot of fun, and we're going to get to know Paul Mokeski even more in this tournament. Please say hi to Linda, and I hope you have a great rest of the afternoon, my friend.
Will do, man. Appreciate you.
You too. The great Paul Mokeski, guys. There you have it. This is a man that's going to educate you and also have a lot of fun doing it. And if respect from your peers means a lot, then this man has a lot, because his peers do respect him for who he is, what he's taught, and what he continues to do right now outside of basketball, which for me is fascinating as well. So a man that goes several magnitudes of order deep. That's how deep this person is. Thank you, guys and gals and pals. We turn it over to you right now, and you will vote on who you think should advance to the next round of this celebrity tournament.
Wow. Oh my gosh. Wow.
I'm speechless. I'm totally speechless right now. This was insane, guys.
Week after week, the topics have been more creative and more thoughtful. The competitors have shown that they are here to win, and they want this more than anything. And tonight was really, really special. The interaction among all of them was beautiful. Between the topics, through the topics, with each other, reliving all of these stories, and finally being able to say what they thought about each other as players, what they felt about each other, what they admired about each other on the court and off, how they viewed them as both players and people. If there is ever one episode of the Green Room, one match of the celebrity tournament to share with anyone, I think it's this one. And that's saying a lot because I'm pretty sure we've all said that for the past 3 weeks, at least, if not more. Howard, what are you feeling right now?
One word describes so much of what I saw tonight. For me, brotherhood.
Yeah.
It was a beautiful brotherhood amongst all 4 of those gentlemen. I loved watching Avi just you ask them questions about basketball, and he's so knowledgeable. It was like a kid at a candy store.
Definitely.
Because I know how much he loves basketball, and the beautiful part of, you know, how much his dad, Avi's dad, loved Sidney Moncrief, and he was now able to have a conversation and feeling that the spirit of that here live tonight, that was beautiful. But just watching Avi, you know, just jump in there and talk about basketball and ask them these questions and have these amazing conversations as a result. So for me, brotherhood was so much of the theme tonight. Miranda, what are you thinking?
Wow. I mean, the passion that everyone showed for each other and the passion that Avi has for, obviously, you know, this, but also for the game of basketball. He always even talks about it when we're not on the show. So but I know this was probably like a monumental night for him, and to see him interacting with these great men is just amazing. I think brotherhood does capture it very, very well. They all had really nice things to say about each other. You know, competitive camaraderie was really high. So I had a great time listening, and I don't know how Avi has all these facts about everybody, but that's another story. He's so good at researching and just knowing, like, and making people feel special. So really nice.
Hopefully the good news is, because this is an 11th hour match, we can have ties.
Yes.
And I definitely want to see all 3 of these competitors again on this show, somehow on TKN, even if they somehow don't all go through, if only 1 or 2, if 2 advance and not all 3, they all 3 need to be back in some capacity. But it is an 11th hour match. We can have ties. That won't happen with round 2 matches and beyond, but that can happen right now, tonight, with the 11th hour. And start getting your votes in the comments section. Some of them being pulled up on screen. So if you want your favorites, if you want to see more of them, if you want to see more of your favorites, if you want to see more of the amazing conversations we had tonight, get your votes in now. Type them in that comment section. Type them in separately for topic 1, topic 2. If it's in the same comment, say topic 1, I vote X, topic 2, Y. Make them 2 different comments, but make sure you're voting on both topics separately. This will be cumulative between topics, and oh my goodness. It is going to be a difficult one.
So difficult.
Gosh, Miranda, there were some incredible stories from their childhood that they told in between the topics, during the topics, that led to even more creative discussions about their lives and their livelihood. And it really, I think, tied in together this entire night and their themes with that second topic of their screenplay titles. What captured you in those moments?
Yeah, I loved hearing more about their childhood and about, like, them growing up, and just, I can't imagine how it was growing up in that time frame of like the 60s and 70s, of when, you know, the moon landing and also, you know, that was a good thing, but the bad things too, like the racial divide and stuff like that. And I just can't imagine seeing how things were back then and all these monumental moments, and then to where we are now, and hopefully where we will be very soon in the future. Hopefully, you know, more as things hopefully progress in the future for the better. So that really stood out to me, just how how much they've lived through and all their experiences, and how, you know, they've seen so much in their lives and experienced so much in their lives.
Yeah.
What do you think, Howard? Oh, sorry, Giselle.
This is how Avi goes, Howard, real quick, and then we'll get back to you. Eric has this coming here. Avi talked about Sydney's dog.
I know, and then he knows what the dog.
He knows the breed. He knows their kids. And alma maters.
So crazy.
Oh my gosh.
I'm sure at that point the dog was like,
Right. He puts so much,
yeah.
Which is another reason each and every week is so special. But I know especially tonight for him with the nature of who was on and what it meant to him and his dad. But Howard, your thoughts?
I mean, I'm just, you know, the Muggsy Bogues story of, first of all, this guy, 5'2", if I'm not mistaken, growing up in poverty, you know, and then to top all that, he gets involved in an incident where he is accidentally shot by a double-barreled shotgun. Are you crazy? And he goes on to accomplish what he accomplishes. And that to me is just like, man, like, you know, being 5'6", being 5'7". I was not a very tall individual, but I never decided to play basketball. So, man, I can only imagine the, you know, all the naysayers, the haters that were like, what? It's a pipe dream. Why are you even attempting to do this? Why? Yet he persevered, and that to me is just, it's amazing and it's inspirational. And I also want to say just the gratitude and all four of these individuals were expressing tonight was also something super beautiful and just super amazing. I also want to say real quick, guys, you know, definitely start putting your votes in, but also, guys, don't go anywhere, because we have an amazing outro for you guys tonight. If you liked what you saw tonight, guys, you're going to get a little glimpse of what we have next Saturday. So please don't go anywhere. There's an amazing outro coming up as well. So, Miranda,
Muggsy is 5'2", and nobody saw him playing professionally, and he did it, and he overcame the odds. And that stigma of being short or petite and being able to play basketball still exists. I know Chris Paul is one of the shorter players currently, and he got a lot of flack for being tinier. He was told he couldn't make it. He wouldn't make it. He had older brothers. He proved them wrong. He's out there still playing. So we cannot let those traits that we can't control dictate what our lives are. If there is something you love and you enjoy it, go out and do it and have fun. It was Moncrief, right? Moncrief said the game is fun.
Yeah. Muggsy also talked about how going through that adversity, but still finding the joy in the process of that journey. I mean, that to me is amazing. And Spud Webb is another individual in the NBA who persevered despite his size. There's a quote I wrote down. If you get on fire, I'm going to beat you like you're on fire. And I believe that was, if I'm wrong, that was the situation that Sidney Moncrief went through. I was like, wow. That is just definitely an amazing story to share.
But then his brother did actually catch on fire.
Yes.
Which was insane. I was like, oh, and he actually caught. That's crazy. And Muggsy, Muggsy, he really inspired me a lot with what he was saying about everything. He's so resilient to what you were saying, Howard. He's so resilient. He's been through so much and he's persevered. And I made a joke that I said, he's inspired me that I can be a basketball player when I grow up. Because I'm 5'2". So, no, I wouldn't, but
hey, go for it, right? There's no reason we can't play intramurals or extracurricular. There are dodgeball leagues, pickleball leagues all over the place. So, yeah, why not be the 60-year-old woman on the playground shooting hoops with her husband. I saw that one day outside the subway station. There was an older couple getting their early morning workout in, and they were shooting hoops. They were tired. It was so beautiful.
That's
to
really
see
nice.
them out there having fun with each other, enjoying the time, and just tossing the ball around and making the shots, and both taking turns, not one dominated. It was a really fun sight to see in the city, and probably one of the few that you can see in a city like this. So, gosh, just people coming from all over and in their own little corners, getting their early morning workouts. So you can still do it, Miranda. You can still do it.
There you go. That's definitely the film I'd like to see. I loved how Paul talked about, visiting cancer patients. And a really great fact, right? That's something that sadly enough newspapers are not going to write. That's going to be that's be on page 67. Something outlandish and crazy, sure, that'll be on the front page. But the fact that these guys had such beautiful hearts to go and do that kind of work is also just really, really awesome. You can only imagine how much it meant to those patients themselves. So it's just really beautiful, these beautiful stories we were hearing throughout the whole night.
Yeah, and a lot of our competitors have talked about the work they've done. Mick Foley has also visited people in the hospital, adults and children alike, and playing Santa Claus, no less.
Yeah,
so, these are the people that have been invited into this tournament and into this world of TKN. Yes, they have the accolades. Yes, they have the resumes. Yes, they have the fame, the acclaim, the name, everything that makes us look up to them. And then they come here and we get to know a Sidney Moncrief. And we hear what everybody said about him.
I know.
Nobody said anything different.
Yeah.
Everybody said the same thing. And we heard what he's doing. And we heard what Muggsy's doing. And we heard what Paul Mokeski's doing. And we hear what Mick Foley's doing and what Mark Henry is doing. And so many of them are invited here because of the people they are, because they know where they've come from and how important it is to give back. Miranda, is there a favorite philanthropy or charity or act that you've heard one of our competitors speak of that's really resonated with you?
In general, it's just amazing to hear them say, all these, just to hear them saying all these amazing things that they're doing is incredible, because I feel like if you have the platform, they're using it for good. That's what it's meant, in my eyes, what it's meant to be, is that you have a platform and you're using it to spread good messages and to reach out to fans and to, help people who might be sick or might be struggling. That's really amazing, because, a lot of people might take it for granted or they might be greedy. And these people are very talented, but they're also very respectful and classy and just good people all around. Like we were hearing about Sidney, everyone just loves him. He's such a sweet guy. I loved seeing him watching his tribute and filming it with a big smile on his face. That was so nice to see.
That's never happened. That was very awesome to watch.
Yeah, more people should do that.
Again, those are so hard. I mean, Avi does such beautiful work on those, and it's when I'm watching those, and then I know we have to come on. It's like, oh, don't cry, don't.
I know.
If I do, what's the big deal? We all cry. But they are beautiful to watch, and it was awesome to watch him smiling, looking at that. It's like going into a DeLorean and time machine, and kind of like going through, their life. It's like they're seeing their lives, and it's so cool to watch them watch that. Muggsy was so captivated by it. There was a picture of him as a baseball player. I had no idea that was part of his journey. I guess his children, his beautiful children.
Yeah.
So watching them watch that is also my joy as well. They're so captivated by it, and I also just want to say their wives also want them to win.
There was a lot of that tonight. Yes.
Yeah, there was a lot of.
My wife definitely wants me to win,
sure.
so we can go to Greece, and I
romantic.
Can't blame them. It's Greece.
It's great.
And guys, we did not think we'd see so many amazing 11th hour matches and 11th hour competitors.
Yeah.
I mean, the talent that Avi is bringing in, it's amazing because they're also coming from such different industries.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, we have some of the biggest names yet to come in this tournament. Yes. Some we don't know about because they'll be 11th hour, which really speaks to even still the caliber of this tournament, that it's round 2 and people still want to try to sneak their way in for that $15,000 and that trip for 2 degrees and that Tom Sizemore Memorial Cup and Mr. Mrs. or Ms. TKN and that pride and the prize. And we know it's about the pride. We hear that every week. They love the prize. Nobody's giving up that trip to Greece. No one's giving up that extra money. But it is about the pride.
I'm so excited to see who's going to be coming up next because some of the biggest names are still, we saved some of the best for last. So we're going to be seeing even more amazing people coming into this tournament, sneaking their way into round 2. And it changes the whole dynamic of the round to a whole new level. It takes it to a whole new level of the stakes are just getting higher and higher for everyone.
Yes, it is. And if you missed last week's match, boy, did you miss a good one. I thought the topics last week were incredible. The topics this week might have blown them out the water, but the topics last week were amazing. Howard, what did you like about the topics last week?
Humanity on trial. I'm sorry, that was not necessarily last week's, but that topic was so great that it stayed with me. Last week's we heard Brutus's amazing journey, his parasailing accident that he talked about, and the journey of that, and how he persevered through that. I mean, that to me was just breathtaking to hear. So that was one of my highlights for last week. So. I would, I want to see this video now.
Yes.
I think we need to see more highlights.
We need a recap. It was great.
Brittany, if you could go back in time and transport 3 historical figures to present day 2025 and have them focus on 3 separate areas that can help mankind, who would you bring back and why? The 3 areas that these 3 historical figures would focus on are a fair society, reason, which is the use of reason and rationalism when making important decisions, and the third is toleration and fraternity, meaning all individuals work together towards a common goal.
For a fair society, I came up with Mary Wollstonecraft. She advocated for women's rights.
Lincoln was the president during the Civil War. He, abolished slavery.
Mr. Beefcake, if you could pick up a book and start reading it, only to realize that it's your life, can you discuss a chapter that speaks to you the most and why? You could also title this particular chapter, The Book of Your Life, if you will.
That chapter is Let There Be Light. We were parasailing on the 4th of July, having a good old time, put everything away. Friend comes up, says, we got somebody who wants to parasail. So we argued, and my buddy took off in the boat to do the parasailing. I was struck by the person being pulled in the parasail in the face. They said, that's it. Nobody's ever survived this catastrophic type of damage and survived. A nurse crawled up on top of me and was pulling my eyes to open them, pointing my finger wherever they had like a little chart to see if I was able to see, and somehow miraculously I was able to see.
Guys, this man, when he says he was near death, I mean, this man was near death. That is not, something that's easy to look at. But
Water, My Friend by Bruce Lee. So I was going through a situation where I had surgery in 2014, had the worst season of my career. Thought about retiring, thought about a lot of different things. My favorite chapter in the book is chapter 5, and it's titled The Tools. But for me, I title it personal growth. You can feel the dream in your heart and see it in your mind. In your mind's eye, then it may not be your dream. It was thinking to me like, you need to start taking action because you're being down on yourself. You're being negative. You're not having a positive mindset, which is going to allow you to lose.
Entertainment, education of all forms being canceled without being dissected first. Would you prefer dissecting it before canceling it or just canceling it immediately? That's a general question, but what are your thoughts when you hear that?
Oh, I think we're at the precipice right now. I think we're at the sort of most dangerous times in all of our lives.
Last one for most underrated. We'll start with Jeremy. Jeremy, what do you think is more underrated of the following? 95-year-old woman resorting to profanity, Tom Selleck's mustache, or Pat Riley's strong chin? They're both friends.
There's hardly anything on this planet that I enjoy more than a 95-year-old woman knowing where to place a good F-bomb. And
thank you for being a part of this.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
I'll do whatever I can for Avi anytime, man, because I think what he's doing for us is pretty extraordinary. You know, this is a pretty amazing opportunity and a pretty unique way to use this new state-of-the-art platform.
Wow.
That X-ray. Holy cow.
Yeah.
And by the way, guys, tidbit fact. Okay, he's not going to say it, but I'll say it. Avi found that in real time. Unprepared, just did his magic and found it in real time. Again, kudos to amazing.
Insane.
But that was, I mean, intense. That X-ray in and of itself just blew me away when I saw that, man. And his recovery, just again, inspirational. Giselle, what do you think?
Well, first of all, congratulations to Brutus the Barber for advancing to round number 3. It was well fought and well earned, and we will be seeing more of him. So that's exciting. But oh my gosh, last week's match and the results are in.
This?
Avi Klein with the
What are we doing?
comments.
What are we So it's a tie.
All three are advanced.
Favorite tie.
Amazing.
I'm so excited. Oh, I just messed up my hair. That's how excited I am.
It's okay. I think for something like this, for all three of these incredible competitors to advance to round number 2, we will see more of them. I think it's okay to mess up your hair for that because I am very excited. I can only imagine that they're going to get better from here now that they've experienced this format once. And if they increase their skills and their tenacity and understand this even a fraction more than they did before and give us what they gave us tonight with that additional renewed vigor, they could be unstoppable. I think we've got a couple of forces and competitors to keep an eye on in round number 2 now.
Oh my gosh.
Just to add what your to your great point is, we saw 3 as well tonight. We saw 4, definitely Avi, but we also saw 3 competitors who were great storytellers. Those guys were able to really take us on beginning and middle end of their journey of whatever story we're talking about, and that's pretty lethal. And you hit it on the head, Giselle. The first time around, they're not sure exactly what this is, but then they're they're putting it together. So their second time around, congratulations. Congrats to Paul Mokeski, Sidney Moncrief, Muggsy Bogues. They are in round number 2, which is currently taking place. But remember, no ties in round number 2. Be facing in the next round. Wait.
Could it be some of the favorites like Stevie Ray? He is still to come. Jacques Rougeau. Jacques Rougeau. He is in round 3. Mark Henry. Nancy Kerrigan. Joe Montana. So many of our big names still to come.
Sally Jesse Raphael. Or Jesse Ventura.
Wow.
Oh my gosh, guys. They definitely deserved it. All 3 of them deserve to move to round 2. It would have been such a hard thing to pick just 1 or 2. Or they need to all, definitely move on.
They certainly do. Gosh, this first topic, inspiring moments. I really like how Mokeski went grand and large with the moon landing. I know that was inspiring to a lot of people, but he also gave us the historical context behind that. But then Sidney went very personal. And I think that was a great way to approach it and a really special angle to take this question from, because a lot of people would have gone for that grand scale event, but then we get to see how this affected him, not only as a player, but as a person, and how he wanted to lead with that kindness. We've got another competitor in this tournament who's the same way. He was out with his mom, and his mom said, always be kind to your fans. And he took that really to heart and personally, and progressed through the rest of his career living that way, making sure everybody always got the time and the moment they needed when he was recognized out in public. And then Howard, Muggsy Bogues on that first topic. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, it's interesting. He mentioned Calvin Murphy, who is also part of this amazing tournament, and how he was inspired by Calvin Murphy. And I was like, hey, what if they go all up against each other? You never know. And he talked about meeting an individual by the name of Leon Howard, and how he started learning the fundamentals of the game. And so the importance of having those mentors, the importance of having those people who believe in your vision and who see, the potential of what you could be. So I think that was such an important part of his story that he shared with us, and just really awesome on Muggsy's part. Miranda, what were your thoughts on Sidney or Paul and what they shared?
Yeah. Well, like I said, I can't believe how it must have felt to see the moon landing or to see some of these major things that have happened in history firsthand, watching it live on television. That must have been insane. And he shared, his personal experience with that and how he felt and how inspiring that was moving forward. And I really like how Muggsy and how Sidney got really personal with this topic, and they were going into like their childhoods and their families. And I, agree that Sidney, he's such a good person, and he's trying to give everyone the time and respect that they deserve. Like I said, if you have a platform like this, I feel like that's what you should be doing. Your fans or your audience is how you're getting this platform. So giving back to them and giving them the time that they deserve, within reason. Obviously, everybody has their boundaries, but giving them the time that they deserve. And that's really nice. Not only when you're first coming up, but even however many years later, you're still doing it. And was it Muggsy that they were saying that kids knock on his door to play basketball with him and he was playing with them? Something like that, right?
Yeah.
That's so cool. That's so cool. That's so personal. And the kids are never going to forget that. That's going to inspire them forever. So
yeah, that's what I love. He didn't just tell them hi. He went out and played with them.
Yeah.
What a dream come true for so many people.
Yeah.
Yeah. And speaking of inspiring, next week we have another incredible match. And we are about to find out who will be competing next week. Will it be another 11th hour match? Will it be a round 2 match? Will we be seeing some of our favorites, some of the favorites to win this entire tournament? Will we be seeing someone we haven't seen in a while? Oh my gosh, the possibilities are endless. So stay tuned. Just a few more minutes. Thank you so much for getting all of your votes in.
Thank you guys.
The comment section. They were tallied. You saw them pulled up on screen. They were tallied.
And thank you, Avi, for this.
All three advanced. This has been an amazing night of the celebrity tournament and the green room. Thanks to Mr. Mokeski, Mr. Bogues, and Mr. Moncrief for spending their time with us. Thank you to Avi for bringing us all together and putting it together each and every week. That is incredible, and an incredible achievement, and just so much work goes into that. And thank you to Miranda and Howard for sharing the screen with me. I love being here with you two. Anytime we're on screen together, it's a joy. And who do you think is coming up next week?
Well, thank you, Giselle, and also thank you, Howard. We're 4 years strong. Teamwork. Teamwork. That's what I was saying. Teamwork. Next week, I'm gonna guess maybe another 11th hour match.
Ooh. Are we ready to find out?
Yeah, I'm ready.
Yeah, let's do it. Let's find out what's happening next week on episode 231 of The Green Room.
Obsession's going to be talent every time. You got all the talent in the world, but are you obsessed? Is it all you ever think about?
Practicing gratitude. I am a big believer in that. Every day I wake up and I pray and I thank God, and I thank everything and everyone in my life that with all my blessings and how grateful I am for everything that I've accomplished. It worked because when you have the right people behind you and you have those people that believe in you, they're going to stand up for you and they're going to hopefully put you in the right spot.
I know I wish I could go back and rewrite that breaking my leg and dislocating my ankle in the Senior Bowl, you know, because that really changed, you know, my life.
And when I can sit there and say, how many of you kids are like me, no confidence in reading, and I see all these hands go up.
Oh my goodness, I was so scared.
Be it with my children or the kids in the community or the kids that wrote to me across the nation. Anytime I talk to them about total commitment.
45 straight shots from the free throw line. Shot clock, beautiful play by Calvin Murphy.
You know, life becomes better when we share knowledge, when we help others to achieve, to be better. The community becomes better.
You know, we function as a team, so we lose as a team, and we also win as a team.
You know, I work with a lot of people who have quit. You know, I've worked with them personally, and today, just for tonight, I'm not quitting. You know what I mean? I'm going to keep going.
There are certain elements of it in the spirit of how Stephen King, his material conveys itself. Sometimes it's over the top, sometimes it's straight ahead, sometimes it's a little campy, but the message, the underlying dread of this examination of justice.
I do a lot of work with mental health, and I know what it looks like when loneliness sort of takes over, and when the heart is not feeling as strong or as it could be.
Jeez, what a jerk. Never realized it before. I guess a lot of people I know are jerks.
But being there at times in the summer when it was 120 plus degrees and seeing the camaraderie and the brotherhood, and I speak that in a generic sense for both male and female, the brotherhood of soldiers, being family.
Japan, and they have a picture of them waiting there on the police, waiting to show up. You know, tell them about the Freebirds and the moonwalking into a ceiling fan. There's just so many crazy old stories.
Red Auerbach created structure, and there was not a lot of one-on-one isolation.
I-35 bridge at 6th Street. This is where Mark Henry, barbers, and volunteers.
I just realized that there's a lot of people that have needs. Maybe the best policy is to do something to help them on the ground.
We walk into the memorial, and to be able to go and be one of the first human beings to see this with this gigantic sculpture of this gentleman, it was just so awe-inspiring.
Well, first of all, what it means to me is the tremendous respect that I've learned to have for the people, the men and women, not just in the FBI, but any of those services that are out there to kind of keep us safe and protect us.
Yeah.
Because we took that job very seriously on our show.
I don't want people shutting this thing away and it's old news, because it is not old news. It's right there, right now, staring us in the face again.
That again supports
so
the
we
FARC.
should practice censorship?
Supports
Your
the FARC.
advocation is censorship?
No, your
that
advocation.
We shouldn't allow our kids
Governor,
to see
Governor,
what
your
goes
advocation.
on?
Everybody was on us, from every sports program to every fan. We were considered done. And we had the guys in the clubhouse who looked at each other in the eyes and said, we're not ready to take our kids to school. We're not ready to go home. We're not ready to quit. We're not ready to back down. Well, you have to learn, because nowadays a lot of these guys start training a couple of days after the season. They never get a break. So I really didn't get going until the 1st of February. And then I built myself up during spring training. That's why I was very durable. And
that image and Y.A. Tittle just giving it everything, but on the losing end.
I guess in my mind, I always wanted to be a heel.
So why would you not want to prepare these children for whether it be a fact or a fiction movie? Horror is horror.
Are we ourselves autonomous as human beings? Now, this is the beauty that Terminator 2 really hits at the core, right? Let's get to the minutia of why we love this film. The social theme of man versus machine. It explores what is spirit.
And the reason why I chose Walter Cronkite, he saw this country in the 1960s, and so you witnessed a lot of this through civil rights, through a very turbulent time.
It's the guy who's willing to die who's gonna win that itch. And I know if I'm gonna have any life anymore. You gotta look at the guy next to you. Look into his eyes. Now I think you're gonna see a guy who will go that inch with you.
You know what? Maybe one of the world's problems will get solved by listening to this show.
Love, Avi, I'm gonna win this whole thing. Watch. I know you are, Tom. I know you are.
Oh.